Fellow heroes, and welcome to the Dragon and Friends not podcast, because this is the Digital Roundtable podcast. That's what this is.
Oh, I didn't even catch it. You said Dragon Friends. I was just going with it.
Woo! Okay. You know, I think, I get the intro correct once a month, but thank you for joining us in this podcast. If last week, we talked about some of the analytics, and we have been growing somewhat, and that's really cool, and I'm happy to hear it. And we love your support. If you ever want to catch us live, you can do so at twitch.tv/digitalhero101. I need to figure out a way to put the Discord in the link, so that way you guys can find a link in the Discord so you can chat. You can also find the schedule at what time we go live. Twitch should put it relative to your time, but you'll see the schedule on there when we go live. It's usually, for us, it's 8:30 Central Time. But yeah, join in. We love speaking to chat. Interacting with you guys and things like that. But I am your host, Mario, and with me is my co-host, Jeff.
Hi.
And today is an exciting day for the two of us, because just this weekend, there's been a blockbuster hit. A little small movie, this thing called, and Jeff, you're gonna correct me a million times. What is it? Shang-Chi.
Just remember
Sean.
the
Say
name
Sean. But
but with
that's
an
right.
NG.
Shang-Chi. Yeah, we're talking about Shang-Chi today, and I enjoyed it. Of course, anytime we do reviews, if you're familiar with this podcast, we will do a non-spoiler, and then we'll let you know when we get into spoiler territory. So, first things first. My initial thoughts, my initial reaction to this film. Going into this film, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have that great expectations, because you watch the trailer, right? And I didn't doubt Marvel, because they've taken small heroes, and they've given them big names. Honestly, Iron Man was a B-class, C-class hero. He wasn't someone that was really big in the spotlight. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even think he was an original Avenger in the comic books. And then Marvel, essentially, they're also making this kung fu film, and it's an Asian cast, and I'm excited about that. But I'm worried. Okay, you're gonna make a martial arts film. You're gonna do a mixed martial arts film, and Marvel films, to me, haven't had the best choreographing. And you guys know me, I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. What this movie does best is the fight scenes. This movie has some of the best fight scenes. It is like you are watching a Chinese film, one of those Chinese martial arts film, and I'm talking Ip Man levels. And the trailer doesn't do it any justice, because the trailer cuts at all the scenes, and it tricks you. It really makes you think, oh, we're just going to we're literally going to just be cutting. It's going to be like your average Marvel fight scenes where there's a lot of cuts and things like that. No. This movie does a fantastic job with it. I think that's the best part of the movie, because it is definitely the part that they put the most work in, and the love in was, you can tell with the fighting in this film. I see we got some people in here in the chat. Let's see. Just got home from watching that movie. It was amazing. Oh my gosh, we're glad to have you here. We're going to be talking about it. Tell us your thoughts. We love seeing you in here. Saw it Friday. Yes, me and Jeff just saw it as well. We're doing our non-spoiler review real quick, and just looked up to see some 3D, some props. All right, yeah, for sure.
Oh, right on, man.
We cannot wait to get into this and dig into this. Hands down, Moments was captivating. It really was. And so a lot of times when I speak about choreographing, in the past on this show, on this podcast, I've brought up that Kingsman does a great job. I love the guy that does the camera work for Kingsman. He keeps it centered on the action. And the reason I bring up Kingsman is because it's basically like it's a very Western film, and so like, it's very reminiscent of Eastern films and how they do those martial arts things, in the fact that the camera is centered on the fighters, and the martial artists or the stunt performers get to just do their work, and and they get to have fun with it, and they get to go there and then think it, like, for a very popular movie over here in the West. I mean, I can say Ip Man, but I can also say what's that? Oh, has a bunch of wire works in it. It's like Hidden Dragon.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Thank you, Jeff. That film's also a really good down. And then Chad over here saying, I thought the action and jokes were great. Loved those, but things were happening without any lead up or explanation. Like things were just happening. Ooh, we'll get into that in the spoiler section of the film. But that's just me. Yeah, no, I'd love to address that with you for sure. I think I know what you mean, and I think I can explain it in a certain way, but the best part of the film is definitely the choreographed and the fight scenes. Now, the story, and I'm going to address this because chat brought this up. So my next part in giving it its overall score, and also whether I recommend the film or not, is that the story is done. And I'm going to give another movie that I love to bring up a lot, like Star Wars. And think back to A New Hope. Think back to the original 3 Star Wars. Those films are told in a linear perspective. We don't know. They don't just like show us Thanos and then cut to the Avengers and then cut to this person and then cut to Wanda and Vision, and then they don't just cut to characters and do things. We don't. The story shows us characters one at a time, and we learn more as the characters as the story progresses. And as the story moves forward, and we don't get to see a character until they're introduced by another character. So it's almost like, think of a relay race in a like a 400-meter relay race, and it's like each character passes the baton to another character. And whenever that character touches the baton, then the story opens up more, and we get to envelop more of the story. So I think that was really smart of them to do it in a linear way because of how the story is told in this way. However, I can see how it can seem like the plot just happens in some cases, especially with like some scenes on the bus that we can talk about there. Like sometimes it's just like, okay, well, we need an ex machina to happen here, but I don't think they happen too much to where it will ruin your overall version of the film. But I do get that.
I think there's a big thing that happens in the third act, which we'll get into when we get into spoiler talks. But
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with Panda in the chat about that there is a big thing that is introduced in the third act, which is like, that's a really odd place to introduce this thing. But we'll get into that.
And joke wise, other than that, like the movie is formulaic. It does have its Marvel. When I say formulaic, I mean it feels like Marvel, and it acts like Marvel. But I think what this show does is kind of like, it doesn't treat itself like a superhero film. It treats itself like a martial arts film, or like a martial arts film that has like Chinese lore and then pulls from it. I don't know a lot about this character, right? I did some research. I do know that they did some creative liberties with it, which I'll get into in the spoiler cast. So if you haven't seen the film, I'm going to go ahead and say I recommend it. I definitely recommend to go see the film. If not for the choreographing alone, the story is good. Character development is good. Probably not my favorite character development in films. To me, I felt like I was like, meh, all right, character, like, but it accomplishes everything that it needs to do. And because of that, for me, whether I recommend the film or not is more important than my score. And I've always said that, but my score would have to be like an 8.5 for the film. And then I'm going to pass it over to Jeff for his non-spoiler review. Or well, hold on, let me address chat real quick. The karaoke scenes were fire, though. I wanted to go karaokeing after.
Very
Felt
much so.
that. Felt
I
that.
want to go karaokeing with these people,
Yes.
like the actors or the characters, either one. Yeah. So I really, really, really liked this movie.
Uh huh.
I had something weird, something very strict. I think I was just in the right headspace for this movie. On the day I saw it Saturday afternoon, because very much along the lines of what you were talking about, Mario. I, I didn't necessarily have low expectations for the movie, but I was not super excited about it in terms of here is a new Marvel character, here is the next entry in the MCU, and kind of this ongoing thing. We've talked in recent weeks about my feelings towards the MCU as of late. That I kind of feel like I'm just watching it out of obligation at this point. There are things happening, in WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki, and even in Black Widow to a certain degree. There are things that I enjoy and I am excited about it,
Oh
and
my
they get me
gosh, you
excited.
sound demonic there for a second.
Oh yeah, I had motorcycle just drive outside my window.
Oh, okay.
Uh, so there are kind of little sprinklings of things that I'm excited about, but overall, I'm like, I don't know if I really care about these characters. I'm kind of just watching it so that I know what everybody's going to be talking about at work the next day, and obviously, like I want to see the post credit scenes so that I know what's coming up and all that sort of stuff. So I went into this not super excited about the new Marvel movie. I was, however, excited about the director, Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed this independent movie called Short Term 12 a few years ago, which was one of Brie Larson's kind of big breakout roles. It's an amazing drama, super, like it's one of Lakeith Stanfield's first movies. But anyway, like I was a fan of the director, so I was like, "Oh, awesome! Like he's the next guy doing the thing that Marvel does, where they take an indie director and then throw him into the MCU." I was also excited about Simu Liu, the actor who plays Shang-Chi, because if you've seen any interviews with this guy, he is like, obviously there's trailers, there's posters and billboards and bus ads and all that kind of stuff, but this guy is really marketing this movie. Like this guy
Yes,
loves
he
this
is. Yes,
character.
he
He
is.
is so freaking excited to be here. And so like it was one of those things where it's like, man, screw it. I want to support this movie at the box office because again, and we'll get into this later on when we kind of talk about the socio-political aspect of this thing. But I was like, I want to go to the theater because I want this movie to do well. Like I want this to be a really amazing deal for the Asian American community, and I really want this film to blow up. So screw it, I'm gonna go see it. And this film did something to me viscerally. Um, like being in the theater really helped as well because the soaring music, the sound effects, like with the all the speakers all around you that like pulsate, and you feel this like punch, like every punch and every kick, like I felt it because the room and this being in this big theater. um this movie really really got to me, and I'm glad that you brought up Star Wars as well. I don't know why you wouldn't bring up Star Wars. It's you.
Every time,
But
man.
the thing about this movie, and this is exactly the way that I described it to Gregory, our coworker who we've spoken of in the past, is I was like, it's interesting to me because this is just the hero's journey again. There's not like beat for beat in
Yes,
terms of the
yes, it
structure,
is.
there's not really anything new under the sun happening in this movie. It's just the hero's journey. It's just done really freaking well. The actors are great. The chemistry between Simu Liu and Aquafina oozes off of the screen. Like the Tony Leung is freaking fantastic. There's a lot of like pathos and stuff going on behind his eyes, even though he's playing this kind of villainous role. We'll get into that in spoilers. The cinematography. So I'm gonna do something real quick because this is something that we can talk about that won't spoil it.
Yeah.
But I want you to I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So, if I tell you that the cinematographer on this movie is a guy named Bill Pope, does that mean anything to you?
Not necessarily.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you who Bill Pope is. I want you to look him up on IMDb real quick.
I
And I'm just going to watch you read through this man's credits, and you will see why this is the only guy who could shoot this movie.
okay. 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 Doing.
And while you're bringing that up, the reason I bring this up is that I'm so glad that I did not know that he was the cinematographer on this movie, because if I did, that would have raised my expectations. So I'm glad, like, during the end credit sequence, his name popped up, and I was like, oh, well, F and A. Like, of course that was him. Like, he's the only guy that Marvel would have hired to shoot this character for this movie.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had
So
no idea.
for the audience listening and the people in the chat, Bill Pope shot the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. He shot all three Matrix films. He is Edgar Wright's kind of go-to guy. He shot Scott Pilgrim versus the World and Baby Driver. This guy is like the guy if you want amazing action cinematography. And so, like, when his name popped up at the end, I was like, thank God I did not know that going in, because if I did know it going in, I'd be like, this better be amazing. But the fact is that it just was amazing, and it just happened as I was watching it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this movie really got to me because I went in just kind of meh. It's gonna be another origin story. Here's a guy who is just a regular person, but then his destiny comes a knocking, and then he's gonna be the new Avenger. And like, I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. Like, when and I'll talk more specifically about the specific moments when we get there. Like, this film brought me to tears in the end. Like, there were a couple of beats during that third act where I really got choked up. I was like slamming my fist into my palm, and I was like, there were certain things happening, like when antagonist and protagonist are dialoguing back and forth as they're sparring, and I'm like, get him, oh, like, people are staring at me, and I'm like, fuck you, you guys are all cheering too. Come on. And that was another thing. Like, it was just so great to be in a theater again of people. Like, I can say this because it's in the trailers, but in the bus fight sequence, when he jumps up and he does that split kick, people are just like, woo!
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I've seen that shot 47,000 times. I don't care. It's amazing. I'm going to woo right now.
And we have some people in the chat saying like they cried as well. The way I see, yeah, like no Winger, I like it, yeah, for sure. And then I also love how chat, they brought up something that I completely forgot to bring up. I'm so sorry for interrupting you, Jeff.
You're fine.
But chat, they talked about like how this movie brought, and you mentioned it quite a little bit, the culture and the elements of family. And I thought that was so important how they talked about like the culture. And I loved how they were taking digs at America and stuff like that. But I thought the Asian American culture / like your traditional roots, even though I totally get what that feels like, I can vibe with that because I am, like, my mom is from Haiti, right? And I have this like black culture, but I'm a black American, right? And my mom's not. And so like, I understand, even though it was like, it had that Marvel, tone where they're playing it safe, I totally like could relate to the whole being a minority in a country. But yeah, you continue on. I just wanted to give shout outs to chat for bringing up some amazing points. And this movie touched a lot of people emotionally. Again, there's only one movie that's ever made me cry, but yeah, we're gonna. But I do.
Wait,
the heartstrings.
Was that the young
you dare.
adult movie that you were telling me about?
Oh no, that one's a secret, Jeff. That's
okay. Never mind. Moving on. We don't need to talk about that. Another podcast. We'll do a whole episode about here are all of the times that we cried while watching movies.
Yeah, for sure, we should do that. It was Force Awakens. It was the first and only time I ever experienced tears of joy because Star Wars was back in theaters.
But yeah, like to just wrap up my kind of preliminary thoughts. It's just a fun time. Like, again, it is formulaic, just like you said. But being formulaic is not necessarily bad, because that's why we go to see concerts of bands who have been around for 20, 30, 50 years because we want to hear the hits, you know? And I mean, no pun intended. I swear I did not mean it that way. Because Kung Fu, you know, hits hot. But yeah, like I went into this movie and I'm like, there's nothing like super like fancy or they're not subverting the genre or like no, it's the same beats as Iron Man and Thor and Doctor Strange and that sort of thing. It just does it so well, and the direction is so well executed, and the acting is so well done. And the thing that well, this is not technically a spoiler. I'll save it just in case some people don't want to.
Yeah, just in case.
Know this. Yeah, just in
don't
case.
Don't get too saucy with them.
Yeah, I'm not. I wasn't going to say anything about specific plot points, but just in case people want to know absolutely nothing about the story, I will save that for our spoiler talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I think technically my score is an 8. But I will caveat that by saying my theatrical experience of this was 9.5.
You know, I love that you just said that right then and there. Theatrical experience of this, because there are some things where like I will score something differently as a fan than I will as a critic, right? Like if I'm critically looking at something, because I enjoy a lot of bad movies, and like ironically, right? And at the same time, yeah, I would give 2 different scores. But yeah, my time at the theater was fantastic. I had a good time at the theater. And would you recommend the film?
Absolutely. I would even recommend it to. I would say. I'm not going to say that because that ties into the thing that I want to hold off on, which I'll just get out of the way because it's not really that big a deal. But again, just in case.
Yeah.
Yes, I would absolutely 100% recommend this movie. Like I came home and this kind of ties into my expectations as well. But on Saturday, my mom was like, hey, like, what are your plans for the day? I'm like, I'm gonna go see Shang-Chi. And she's like, thanks for the invite. And I was like, Mom, like, okay, well, yes, like I could have invited you to the movie. I guarantee you will not like this movie. Like, I don't even think I'm gonna like this movie. I don't like what, like, I guarantee you will hate this movie. It's Marvel stuff. Like, you say you're interested in Marvel stuff, you're not. I came home and like spent half an hour before I even sat down, just like, and then there was this one part, and then he said this, and then she said, oh, and then I was all like, oh, crying. So yeah, yes, I would absolutely recommend this movie.
Love it. Okay, that has been our non-spoiler version. We love that you are here and you're interacting with us. However, we are gonna start talking about the movie. We're gonna get into the nitty-gritty. We're gonna get all dirty all up in there. So I do appreciate you. If you don't want to be spoiled, you know, give a lurk, go play a video game, go watch a movie, but definitely go check out this movie. You have the recommendation from me and Jeff. We gave it overall around the same score. We're probably have just nothing but good things to say from here on out. And if you haven't watched the movie and you do want to discuss this with us, stick around. I like to hear some of your insight. You might say something that I forgot to say, or you might say something that I didn't even see. So, we are beginning our spoiler cast right now. All right, yeah. So,
how is Thanos still alive? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so Panda brings up the great cast. The cast was fantastic. Shout outs to Ronnie Chang. We're getting into the juicy stuff. That's right. 4 out of 5 is pretty fair. I think on Letterboxd I gave it a 3.5, maybe a 4. I can't remember. But yeah, no. So for me, this is what I do. I might say this every time we do a review. It's okay. It's part of the gig, right? Maybe I'll make a list of how to do this. So the way I do my ratings is so we're just going to go, so 7 is passing. 7 means we're just going to go 7 and up, all right? So 7 means you did what you were supposed to do, right? But you played it safe, right? So you didn't do anything crazy, new, or anything like that. If you made a 6, it's like, okay, I see what you were trying to do, but you missed the mark. And then
Mm-hmm.
8 means you did what you're supposed to do, but you also like you captivated me. You may have done something that's been done a million times, but you did it in such a fun, creative way that it is worth experiencing almost immediately again. 9 means you made something new. You made like you did something and you surprised me. You not only surprised me, you surprised a bunch of other people. This is something unique. This isn't just the same formula that we've seen a million times over. There's something creative to it, and there's a lot of things that can do that. I know it's hard to be unique, right? And then a 10, which really, in my eyes, nothing's ever going to be a 10. But if it is a 10, obviously we're not saying it's perfect, but we're saying that this is something that is can either be considered an instant classic, or can be seen as like just far above the cut of the rest. All right, like it does all the things previous to the 7. It gets its story across. It does something new and unique. It takes old elements and reinvigorates them. It does everything that a 7, 8, and 9 does, and then successfully. So that's how the scaling works, from 6 to 10, and yeah, but it goes against the stereotype. Ooh, that's a good way of putting it. I love how they introduce so many Asian comedians. Agreed. I think the comedians help especially with like Marvel humor, because Marvel loves to they love humor in their shows, and I talked about this once, how they'll use humor to lighten very serious moods. But I think Shang-Chi did this more successfully than other films, and I like to bring up Doctor Strange for that. I was gonna ask, name a 10 movie. Oh, it's okay. I speak ABC. I would give this a 9. Some parts 10. Hey, I don't blame you. I think I do agree with you in that aspect. I always say speak Chinglish. Yeah, that's the same. We kind of got the same thing here, because I'm half Mexican, half black. So like, you don't really speak Spanish, right? We don't speak proper Spanish. You say trucka. That's us. That's if you speak Spanish, then you know what I'm talking about. All right, yeah, chat's blowing up. So we're in the spoilers, Yami. We're in the spoilers, so be aware. Now that we've described how to name a movie that's a 10, oh my gosh, I can't even, like, Jeff, help me out. Parasite, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Parasite's worthy of a 10. Thank you.
Absolutely a 10.
Yeah. I don't know when I will see it. Let me type in.
I don't want Bong Joon-ho to make another movie because it won't be as good.
It won't be as good.
I want him to continue making movies, obviously, but I'm like, you can keep going, but that was your masterpiece, bro.
For real. It's all good. I haven't watched it yet, and I don't know when I'll see it. Okay. Hey. Well, me and Jeff will give you our full-on recommendations. Thank you, chat, for looking out for new people in chat and letting them know their spoilers. I think I need to add like a text of just like a blinking spoiler light in the future next time we do movie reviews. Okay, so dang, man, how do you want to do this movie, man? You seem I think you fell in love with the movie more than me. I do want to say I did a little bit of research into the comic book origins.
Okay.
So I can tell you that it is nearly a 1-to-1 to the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
It like, so his comic book origin is that his father is part of an organization, big organization, syndicate that basically has controlled the world through the shadows, and Shang-Chi is essentially like has been raised to be this like killer assassin and things like that. And what happens is he sends him to go kill someone. And I can't remember exactly if it was his first mission or not, but he sends him to go kill a dude that's like part of this like he needs to kill him to get the power to shift a certain way. And Shang-Chi, it shows that he's easily able to take out everyone that's guarding this guy, like no problem. Then he gets the guy's basically on his deathbed. He's an old man, and Shang-Chi's like, you know what? I'm not going to be my father's tool of destruction from here on out. You'll live. You're gonna end up dying anyways, but I'm not gonna. And he does this huge speech, basically just saying like, I'm gonna do my own thing now. And then that's like the origins here. But they did a twist in this one, and I love how like they slowly told his origin stories, because for an audience member that knows nothing about him, they talk about the story about his mother. And they're slowly developing that story. And then that moment where he says, hey, I went out and I killed the dude. Right. And like, for the people that know him, it's like, know the origin. They're like, oh, he actually killed the dude. Because you as a casual member, you're already thinking, oh, he didn't do it, right? Maybe that's what you're thinking as an audience member, and that's the plot twist. But even as a comic book fan or someone who did the research beforehand, you're also kind of thinking, oh, well, he didn't do it because he didn't do it in the comic books. And then he reveals that he did it. And I think, like, for me, that was one of the most powerful moments in the entire film. Was that, like, he went through with it.
Yeah, I felt it so much on Aquafina's face when she reacts to that knowledge drop, where literally I suddenly had this like blackout moment where my best friend Guy had just told me that he murdered somebody. Like, as I was watching the scene, like, I felt myself in her position, as if I was talking to my own best friend, being like, dude, I don't care how many people you killed. Like, you're still my friend, and that doesn't make you a monster. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, this movie hit me, like, so freaking hard. But, yeah, like, it is a very interesting twist. And I love, too, the way that, I mean, the general pacing of this movie is something I want to talk about as we go along. But I was initially kind of put off by that scene, by the flashback that precedes it, because at first I was like, wait, like, why are we showing the flashback to when the mother died, like, now? Because this is kind of like end of Act 2, or almost kind of the beginning of Act 3, like going into the final climax.
Yeah.
And I was like, we know their mother died. Why are we, like, why didn't we have this flashback earlier? This is kind of oddly placed. I don't get it. But then when when you have that revelation, you're like, oh, that's why. It's because you need to see the moment where he, like, ran away and, quote unquote, let his mother die. And you need to see the pain on his face of, yeah, a blood debt has to be paid in blood. Because we're now being presented with new information. It's kind of like what we were talking about with Black Widow. Like, why are we doing the flashbacks? No new information has been told to us. Those were unnecessary.
Yes.
But with this, it was, because now we know, oh, he's not just gonna try and plead and reason with his dad. Like, he's going in like, I have to kill him. And again, like, that's like an insane thing for your hero. That's an insane headspace for your hero to be in going into the climax of a Marvel superhero movie.
And the thing is, it's weird because movies like this do something weird to me, and I think you need to help me unlock this. Like, movies like this that are, for whatever reason, they fly under the radar for me. Like, I know it's good, I know what's happening is good, but I don't know why I'm not always connected at the moment with it, right? And I don't know how to explain it. And then, like, I'll think about the film, or I'll rewatch the film a second time, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Why didn't I connect with this the first time? Because I think, like, we get so used to films. So if you watch a lot of action films, you get so used to stuff being over dramatized, and so used to things being told to you and not shown, right? Like, show don't tell. Right. And even though this movie, like, and this is why I'm so happy you brought up the flashbacks. The flashbacks, a lot of times in movies they do what Black Widow does. The flashback's just there as like oh look, it's almost like a background element, like oh let's put this here so the viewers don't get up to use the restroom during the portion of this film. And
Right.
uh but this film, and it's non-consistent. Like flashbacks are never consistent, narration's never consistent. This film is consistent from beginning to end. This film, and this is why I give it an 8.5, because there are little things like, and it's very linear, and it's super linear. Also, real quick, chat saying how like you love how they fell in and out with the father. Like, yes, you're kind of like riding that emotional roller coaster. And the characters did a
Yeah.
great job. You're riding that emotional roller coaster because you realize, oh, the father actually like has potential to be good, and then you see he's corrupted, and you're like, okay, well maybe he can be redeemed. He's been redeemed once before. Like I want to see it again, and then yeah. So the story, the story's a roller coaster, and it's not in a bad way. Like you go up with the characters just as much as you fall down with them, and it is fantastic. And the way that they do this is through the flashbacks and through the linear storytelling.
Yeah, like I like that there were flashbacks, but the present day, it didn't feel jumbled in any way. It still felt like the story is happening, but we're gonna get, like, even like when they like right after the bus fight, and Katie is like, I'm like, you're gonna, like, no, like, you're gonna explain to me what's going on. You're gonna explain it to me on the plane because I'm going with you. We then cut to a flashback, which makes perfect sense in the pacing of the movie because this is him telling Katie about his childhood.
Yep.
So we would go to a flashback, and then it's brilliantly edited where halfway through the flashback we cut to them on the plane, and do you want beef or vegetarian? It's a fun little bit there.
Right. Yeah, and they have fun. They keep the audience engaged. And again, like we see each character through another character's eyes. Like the first time we see, so the father essentially introduces, well, technically the mother introduces the film, right? And it's
the
narrator.
narration.
She starts off with the narration, and it gives you kind of like the tone for the entire movie. It sets up the theme. Like it starts off in a flashback with narration. This is going to be something that continues in the film, and that's something that's, I think, is real important. Is, and I know I say the same things a million times, but I say them because I see them. Is Chekhov's gun, and this movie does Chekhov's gun great. If you don't know Chekhov's gun, it's essentially, if there's a gun in a scene, it needs to be fired. If you see a gun in a scene, you need to fire the gun by the end of the scene or before the show or presentation ends. The gun needs to be fired. If you have a Death Star that can blow up planets, that Death Star needs to blow up a planet before the film ends. If you say there's going to be a cataclysmic event and something bad's going to happen, we have to see what that cataclysmic event is going to actually do. So,
Yeah.
but this movie, what I like is most films do it in a dramatic way where you have to see it. This film does it small, and it continues, and in my opinion, it's hard to make a film in a linear fashion where everything has to connect and flow. And this film does it for small things too, like with Katie. And in the very beginning, when they're showing, okay, she's reckless, she's irresponsible, she's probably a bad influence on him, or maybe she's, she grounds him to staying running away, whatever. They show her joyriding. She's driving a car like she stole it, because she technically did. But that's not just one funny scene. In any other movie, that's like one and done. No, she's the driver for the next part of the film. It becomes a plot device. It becomes her role in the film. We've already established, okay, this is what she can do as a character. So like, and this is why in other films, it would be like, oh, okay, oh, that's funny, they pretended like they stole the car, that's it. Or it would have been like, well, we need to give this character something to do. What do we do? What do we just have her drive the car? Have her drive the car through the maze. Yeah, we'll let her. And then as an audience member, you're like, how is she such a good driver? No, very early on, they establish every character's feats, abilities, what they can do, whether it be in flashbacks for the main characters, or or present time showing off a character's abilities. And when I was trying to think of the sister's name, what's the sister's name?
Zhaijing, I
Zhai Jing.
think.
Oh, you're that's right. That's right. Yeah,
Xialing.
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 Yeah.
Um. So, and then you're like, okay, How I Met Your Father. Okay, okay. I leaned over and whispered, and that's How I Met Your Father. That's great. During the flashback scenes with the mom, that's fantastic. And yeah, so the consistency of the movie is the reason why like I gave it that extra point 0.5 was because yeah, this movie's
Mhm.
like it's really good, but it does like these small little nuances, and it's real smart with it, and you can, as a if you're just a casual viewer, you won't see it, but it'll still flow and make sense, and everything will stay aligned. Whereas like if you're not so much of a casual viewer, I mean, I'm sorry, if you're not so much of a casual viewer, you'll be like, oh snap, like, oh, there we go, oh, okay, oh, why, thank you, like, I appreciate this. uh I do want to point out, because you brought this up in the third act, how like the third act is kind of like there's kind of like a left field with like the dimensions.
Yeah, I found it kind of, I didn't realize it was happening until just after the scene, but the big bad of the movie is introduced kind of towards the end when they finally get to Talo and Michelle Yeoh shows them that like awesome like sculpted mural of like all the demons and the soul sucker and like all this stuff. And like it was one of those things where like she was talking and I found myself like I wasn't really paying attention at first because I was just like, okay, cool, like they got to the village they were looking for and they're being shown around, like she's giving them the tour. And then like halfway through the scene, I was like, "Oh shit, this is like exposition stuff happening right now. I need to pay attention." And then I was like, "Okay, that was a great story. Now we know your purpose. We have to keep the gate sealed." Da, da, da. And then I don't want to get too far ahead, but like the fact that the freaking creature busts out of the gate, I was like my instinctual feeling was like they kind of lost me here. Like I really thought it was just going to come down to Shang-Chi versus Wenwu, but now we have the Great Protector, like the big dragon, versus the giant soul-sucking thing. And again, I was kind of in that mindset of like, all right, here comes the big battle between the giant CGI thing versus the other giant CGI thing. But again, and we can kind of get more into this as we kind of go through like what we liked and the nitty gritty stuff. Like it's just done so well, and I don't care that it's a giant CGI thing again because they laid the groundwork with the characters, and it is that thing. Like even just the even the giant monsters aside, like just the fight between Shang Chi and Wenwu, yes, it's two actors in front of a green screen, and it's Harry Potter all over again. It's Star Wars all over again, where he's shooting the blue laser stuff and he's shooting the orange CGI stuff, and it's just like, okay, like just I mean, again, not to say it looks like shit, but I'm just saying like I'm shooting like spectral particles out of my hand. Like it's the same thing with Wanda versus Agatha Harkness. I
Yeah, it's
shoot
like,
purple shit, you throw red shit. It's
what
that
does
type of
it
thing.
mean? Yeah, this has no meaning
Yeah,
to me in this place,
but
and yeah.
but here it did have meaning because the performances are so good and the writing of the characters, the dynamic between father and son is so good that I'm like, I don't care if I'm seeing more CGI stuff that I've already seen in 30 other movies. I care about it this time. Like this time around, I'm in.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that what the color represents him taking both, like it's him growing as a character, because especially okay, so this is interesting. Oh man, we're already talking about the third act, because the third act I think we should get into this. Like you said, like let's talk about the movie. I do want to get into this though, so don't let me forget this. Chat, I know you're not being facetious, but I'm gonna say this in a very sarcastic voice, so don't take it the wrong way. I'm gonna use my Marcus voice, because Jeff is gonna understand what I mean when I say this. So chat's over here saying, oh, but it is the visible representation of good and evil. Like, like that's the colors. That's usually what the colors mean. Like, look, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. No,
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
see which one's winning. And I think like they did a good job with the representation there. I know exactly what you mean in the fact that I was kind of lost as well. Like at
Yeah,
the
like when
on
the
the
creature
third.
busts out, it's like, we're doing this? Like, I thought we were wrapping up, like, not necessarily in like a Return of the King kind of way, like, but for a moment, I did kind of feel like I thought we were wrapping up here, and now we got to deal with this giant creature thing. Like, okay, I got 10 more minutes. Let's keep going.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like I felt this like this way because I didn't get lost in the narration right then and there. I was listening and I was like, "There's no way. Like, are they really doing this right now? Like, is this is this like why this is out of nowhere? Like, I don't think this should happen, but it worked so well, and I think there's a reason why it worked. And yeah, I want to I do want to get into that when we get into the third act, but the first act and everything represented in the first act. Hold on, let me see what chat is saying. I love it when he is able to steal 5 of the rings and turn them his own color, which means that he had family, found himself, and was able to take over his dad the same way his mother. The large fight scene was cool, but it was quick and wasn't exactly a struggle. It was more with family or with self. Yes, and I think yes, you guys hit it on the nail. Like it was very metaphorical about family, and this is something that I definitely wanted to talk about with later on. What was,
Yeah, it's like more of an emotional fight than it is a I am trying to beat you down and kill you fight.
right? It is an emotional fight, and it's a conflict within the character. And screw it, I'm gonna go ahead and say it now since chat is quick on the trigger. I love you guys for it. What really happens is I was really surprised in the third act when he said like blood for blood, and I'm like, I like this. Again, another reason why I gave this film an 8 was because the struggle wasn't with the best friend. The struggle wasn't with the sister. The struggle wasn't even with the father. It was internal struggle, right? I was expecting something like Katie was gonna be like, you're going too far. You're starting to act like your father, or like the sister, or like him and the sister are like being friends, and then Zhu Lang. I'm so sorry. Forgive me for butchering the names, but him and the sister then have a disagreement, and then he has to. They kind of like what they did in the Force Awakens, where they have to like Rey is correct on the situation, and then Luke Skywalker's wrong, and Rey has to show him why he's wrong. I said Force Awakens. I meant Star Wars number 8. Last Jedi.
Oh, Last Jedi.
Star Wars number 8. So like I thought they were gonna do that with the sister, but no, it was literally internal conflict. And it was him realizing that he did wrong. And like that's, to me, they did it so well because he thinks of his fault, and like me being someone with past experience of like depression and other things, and like talking to my friends and talking to other people, my friends who have insecurities, or listening to stuff like that, is something that like people do. Like they have this idea, then they do something wrong, they feel guilty about what they did, and they think about, or like they think about their memories, or they think about their past, or they think about things, and they basically meditate and they talk to themselves. And it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, that is brilliant. That is so brilliant how they did the third act. And then he learns like, I went about this wrong. I tried to give my father a taste of his own medicine, but I that's not who I am, or that's not what I need to do. And I think at that point I was like, I love this film. Everything else was, I was like, oh, this is a good film. I like this film. I'm going to buy this film when it comes out. But then it was that right there. It was that inner scene, and then him, and then and then they did the whole like stereotypical like color good guy versus bad guy and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think that is what made the scene work really well, because then you are there with the character as he is taking control of the rings and stuff like that, which, by the way, those rings don't make no damn. I don't understand those rings. That's just one of the things, like, they didn't.
Okay, I'm so glad that you brought this up.
They purposely didn't explain those rings. So
we don't know anything about them.
We know nothing about them. So, okay, in the comic
a movie
books
called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, that legend is pretty freaking thin, bro.
Oh yeah, what legend? It's like a myth.
Because, like, in the opening voiceover, Mom says he found them in a tomb or in a crater, or some say he found them in a crater, others say he found them in a tomb, but they gave him immense power that granted him eternal life. And we know that, like, he can punch really hard when they're on his arm, and he can, like, use them as projectiles, and he can, like force boost to, like, jump really high, kind of like how the Hulk does. But, like, and obviously, like, this is exactly what the post-credit scene sets up, but, like, it wasn't until I was watching the post-credit scene that I started thinking, like, wait, did they ever explain
Nope.
what Ten Rings are? Where they, like, what are the properties of these things?
Nope, they never did. They never talk about it. I was like, okay, like, I was hoping to learn something about them, because, okay, here's the thing. The rings, okay, I literally had to look this up because I was so confused. So I grew up with my dad and my uncle reading comic books. I read some of their comic books. They told me a lot of stories about comic books. And then I grew up watching some animated movies, watching those 90 cartoons, with Iron Man cartoon and Spider-Man. And in the Iron Man cartoon, there's the Mandarin. And he has the 10 rings. And what the 10 rings are, okay, they're two things. And this is really specific why they're two things. So what the 10 rings actually are, there's a ship that crash landed in China that only the Mandarin found. And he studied the ship, and he found, like, the rings are actually like power coils. Essentially what power up the ship and make the ship. And it's from this super advanced alien race. And so he wears them on his fingers. And then, but he tells everyone that he's using magic. Even though he understands that it's science, he tells everyone that he's using magic because he wants to create a caricature. He wants people to see him in a certain light, see him almost as like a holy, godly figure. And
like
so,
his persona.
Right. And so the whole thing, especially in the Iron Man cartoon, is like he's using magic and Tony Stark's using technology, and technology beats magic, but it's in actuality it's technology versus technology. And the rings are like really, really busted, like stupid bust. Oh, like Infinity Gauntlet powerful. Like you can literally just disseminate someone just by looking at them. And so they didn't have the rings on his fingers. And like I read on IGN that the ring, they probably didn't do that because they didn't want it to resemble the gauntlet.
The gauntlet, yeah.
But also, I mean, like, I did like how they put it on his armband, because I don't know if you guys watch martial arts movies, but they do that. Like, they have that's kind of like a
wraps.
Yeah, they have like the wraps. They have like where there's metal rings on the forearms, and you fight with the metal rings on your forearms.
It's almost like having gauntlets.
Yes, I think one of my favorite films. I can't even remember what it's called, but one of my favorite films that showcases that is Kung Fu Hustle.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They literally have like the literally like iron rings around.
He takes iron rings around his arm and he starts fighting with them. Yeah. So, and so they changed the lore. And I was thinking, okay, maybe they'll reference something like that. Nope. All we know is that he found them. He has them.
Yeah.
And he can do stuff with them. And I was like,
I mean, like,
okay.
And again, like, I'm totally fine with it. Like, I'm seeing in chat there. I thought we said this. I guess we didn't. But yeah, like they basically set it up in the post-credit scene where they're looking at all of the etchings and the runes or whatever it is they're looking at, and Banner's never seen it. Carol has never seen it, and so then it just kind of teases you, and you're like, yeah, in the next in Shang-Chi 2 or. What like we're gonna explore the rings and what they actually are in a future thing, because there's also the other question now is, so Shang-Chi gets the 10 rings for the first time, and it somehow emits like this beacon, this like tracking beacon is activated, and it sends out a signal or something.
Yeah.
So the question there is like, well, why now is this tracking beacon being activated? Like, why wasn't, because Wenwu had him for thousands and thousands of years. So
in the comic books,
I'm assuming there's something special about Shang-Chi, that when he gets the 10 rings, it evokes some sort of prophecy or something.
So here's two things, since we're in the realm of theory crafting, but I do want to talk about that post-credit scene a little bit. Because Bruce was not in Hulk form.
Is he human?
he was just a regular dude. Which
I didn't even notice until people started talking about it online. I was like, oh my god, you're right.
I was like, wait.
I was just like, yeah, it's Bruce Banner. Cool.
I was like, why is he not hulked out? He still had his arm wrapped, so it looks like it's permanent damage that he took from the Infinity. Maybe because he's from that special place, or it's his dragon heart. So here's the thing about Shang-Chi. The thing about Shang-Chi is that he has no superpowers. Literally in Marvel, he is the world's best fighter. He's so good at fighting that they consider it a superpower. Which confused me, and I think would have confused audience members at the end, because they did bring up like the fact that, okay, well, his mother was able to beat his father because of the dragon heart, which I'm not gonna lie, I literally thought they were gonna make him Iron Fist. I knew so little about this character.
Oh, dude.
I knew so little. But I knew enough about Iron Fist, and this sounded way too much like Iron Fist. I was like, are they going to make him Iron Fist? I was like, I'm for it. Like, I'm for it.
I guarantee you the MCU, like Marvel, in turn, like, okay, I will word it like this. Kevin Feige is not interested whatsoever in Iron Fist.
Oh, really?
Like, because here's the thing about the Iron Fist Netflix series, which, again, I'm not here to like be the voice of all voices and say it sucks, move on, but I fucking hated it.
Pretty bad.
The general consensus was it's not good, but a big reason why people were angry about it, the Asian American community especially, was like, really, Netflix, really, Marvel, like whoever is like more in charge here, you're gonna do like a kung fu show and you're gonna cast a fucking white guy. However, that's Danny Rand. Like his story is he's Batman.
Yeah.
Like he's a white kid who was rich and owned a company and like became a superhero at some point. Like that's that story.
Yep.
And so I guarantee you, and also I'm just gonna quick tangent. Like this movie is a hit. Like it smashed box office records. It broke all previous Labor Day release records. It made $85 million this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, and that's during the pandemic. Let's all remember.
And it's not on Disney Plus either.
Yeah, it's only in theaters.
It's
so that's
only
like
in theaters.
all box office numbers. So based on that, based on the reception, because people are like, no, it's not just because it's the new Marvel thing, and hey, it's a movie, and in certain states we're allowed to go see movies again, and it's people are feeling like it's safe to go to the movies again. It's not just that. Like the movie's good, and word of mouth is really tracking. I guarantee you, any plans that they had to like reboot Iron Fist at some point, or like, oh, okay, well, people didn't like the Netflix series, we'll put it on the back burner for now. Like all of that is completely scrapped. They're like,
Look,
fuck it.
here's the thing.
Anything we want to do with kung fu or martial arts, we're just gonna make it Shang-Chi because this was really good. That was not.
I love that they're taking characters that nobody knows, like nobody cared about in the comics, and they're modernizing them. But here's the thing. This is what I was saying about Black Superman, right? It's like some things it's okay to update. Like I get there's probably this fan base that's really attached to the Iron Fist and they're really attached to that character. But like you got to remember that he was written during a different time, right? There's nothing wrong with modernizing these certain elements and making, because it, to me, story element wise, especially with the way that they write Superman's a literal extraterrestrial being.
Yeah, he's an alien.
He's an alien, and you're gonna make him a white guy? Like, you get what I'm saying?
Like, but it's like he's if a black actor plays Superman, that doesn't make Superman an African American human being. Like he's an alien.
He's still an alien.
He just looks like a black guy.
Right, but you get what I'm saying, where it's like visually, especially with our society and how things work, it's the same as doing the Iron Fist and making Iron Fist a white guy, right? Like that's what I'm like, and that's the comparison I was saying. And I was like, when they announced Black Superman, I was like, it makes sense to me. Like, we need a. And I also just believe, like, I'm not against updating superheroes, but you don't even need to update superheroes. You can just you can change them and move them up, like have legacies gone, like what they did with Miles Morales and stuff like that. I'm getting off topic. That's a tangent that I can go on my own way.
Yeah.
But okay, so he's a superhero with no powers. And I think like the third act can be kind of confusing because they subtly show him shifting the wind and showing like he picked up the stuff. And I was so down because the way Iron Fist works is like the dragon has to, grant you the power, and like it's this village hidden away that can only be like seen, and then if the dragon gave you the power, your job is literally to protect the hidden village. I was like, yo, that's Iron Fist. I was like, that's Iron Fist. That's
what was it? Kunlun, right?
Yes. I was like, that's freaking Iron Fist. Like, don't even. And
I mean, it again, like I said, this could be like the MCU's way of saying, yeah, remember Iron Fist and all of that? Yeah, we're just gonna roll elements of his story and his mythos like into Shang-Chi, which is fine because that's part of the beauty of the MCU, is that it's not always a 1-to-1 ratio of like, this is how it happened in the comics, therefore this is how it happens in the movies. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy are vastly different in the comics. Like the Avengers have constantly shifted who's in, who's out, and different people have been in it. It wasn't just the 7 people that we saw in that awesome 360 shot in 2012. So yeah, I mean, I think that's their way of going like, Shang-Chi is our martial arts guy. Like he is the representation of this culture in as far as the MCU is concerned.
Yes, and I think it's real important, and they spoke about the culture. They really did speak about the culture, and they really did get into it with the culture, which is important for those for any Asians out there. I think representation is super important, super good. The rings. What I wanted to get at though was the rings in the comic books. They actually have a mind of their own. So they have personalities. So it could be, I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, I really don't know how to do it because the movie portrays it like the dragon energy or the mystical energy that is what's, you knowing yourself. But I think the rings, in some way, think of it like the Lord of the Rings. They just like betrayed their master, their previous master, because they were so sick of, or not so much that they were sick of him, but they I guess they realized, oh look, this guy can do something with us. Who knows how they're gonna do it? I'm theorizing. I'm in a whole nother world right now because
no. I mean, because again, like we don't have that much to go on. I mean, to me, there's a little bit of Mjolnir in there as well, which is like they're fighting. Shang-Chi starts to kind of get the upper hand. Boom, he's got 5 of them. Like Wenwu has 5, Shang-Chi has 5, and it's sort of like the rings are going like, hey buddy, the tables are kind of turning here, and this guy's kind of getting the upper hand on you, so you better step up your game, or like all 10 of us are going to go over to his side. And then they eventually do. So there's a little element of that in there as well. But yeah, it's that thing where, as we're talking, I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, like you're right, there is no explanation for any of this. There are no rules set in terms of what the rings can do. However, in like, I mean, this is on record. Like if this were Black Widow, I'd be like, therefore I don't like the movie as much and it's bad. But with this, I'm like, I don't care. The movie's still awesome.
It is, and I think like obviously it's done on purpose, because they're really quick to say, hey, he found these rings somewhere. Okay, that's it. And they never talk about them again. Never talk about them again. And I think that's good. I do want to talk about another thing. And I know we're talking about a lot of meta stuff. And to me, this is real important, because this confused the living lights out of me when I was watching this film. So the rings confused the lights out of me. And then the whole mythos of the Mandarin, right? So Iron Man 3. I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I'm gonna say it. I tend to do this. I like Iron Man 3. I think Iron Man 3 is a great film. I know fans didn't like it, and I think it's because
it has come back around.
Has it? Okay, good. Yeah. Because I think fans didn't like that they got duped. They got tricked. Specifically with the fact that they got tricked with the Mandarin, because Mandarin is like one of the biggest Iron Man villains, and even I was excited about it because I grew up watching the freaking cartoon of Iron Man, and I'm like, oh, I get to see him in live action. I can't wait for this. And I was the girl I was dating at the time. I was like, this is the Mandarin. This is what he does, and this is he's gonna be great. And then it's like, I'm an actor. Like we meet Trevor. Right. I was like, what is this? But the film Iron Man 3 is good because it's Tony Stark being a superhero without his Iron Man suit, and it's like Iron Man isn't the superhero, Tony Stark is. That's why it's good. However, hold on, let me see. Chat's popping off another thing. Another thing is how we also completely shut out his past by when he was first met Katie, and telling the story of when we were launched, she jumped in to save him and said that he didn't speak English well, and his dad had reference in the cutscene about speaking multiple languages means he did and didn't need her to save him, and then how she was shocked that he could fight on the bus scene. Thought that was pretty significant. Yeah, right. It almost seems like a plot, like he didn't know English, but later on in the film, we're told that at a very young age, he already was supposed to be practicing multiple languages, right? English is a hard language to learn. I'm sure he probably knew some English. He probably knew more English than we know Mandarin Chinese. Let's be fair. And a lot of times with a lot of my friends are in this area of Texas. There's a big Vietnamese culture. A lot of the Vietnamese people in this area, they went to school. They didn't even know any English, and they learn English as they go to school. So I think that's like a bit of like a cultural thing, kind of that they're putting in there. And I think just the fact that I don't know. I would let that one slide in my opinion. But I do get what you're saying because they do talk about his past. There's also the fact that Shang-Chi is an unreliable narrator. He's an unreliable narrator because he lies multiple times in the film. And he's not only, but the thing is, it serves a purpose because he's not only lying to the characters, he's lying to the audience.
Lying to that, yeah.
And so he is an unreliable narrator, but it serves a purpose in the story because he's lying to himself. And it's not till the end of the film, the third act, that he sees the truth, and we see the truth with him, and then he grows as a character. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's a fantastic point. I would have never said anything about that. Thank you. I love that. This is amazing. I love how you guys are blowing up chat.
Good times.
Thank you for the hydrate, Bex. So the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 was portrayed as an actor. Mm-hmm. And then in Shang-Chi, his father brought up a really good point that made me like kind of get a little embarrassed in the movie theaters. Obviously no one could see it because I was like in a movie theater. But he talks about how like they took his name, they made him this villain, and then they compared him to a fruit. He used the name of a fruit. And I was like, oh, yeah. Yep, that's comic books. Yep, comic books are dated. Oh, oh, man, I didn't even think about that. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. You know what I mean? Like, he brought up a really good point. And so, obviously, they're changing the whole mythos of the Mandarin. They changed the 10 rings, and the mythos of the Mandarin is being changed to his father, and this father figure is the Mandarin, and I'm like, you know, the fanboy in me is fighting it, but at the same time, I'm like, I love this. This is great.
They're not just changing it; they're erasing it because what he describes is the Mandarin was never real to begin with.
That's true.
It's not like there was a real Mandarin and Trevor Slattery was like, well, I'm going to pretend to be the Mandarin. Like when Wu says the Mandarin is a name that Trevor Slattery made up.
Yeah.
Or that the bad guys in Iron Man 3 made up for him. Like he never referred to himself as that, which I thought was kind of interesting. It kind of, again, it goes back to that whole thing of if the movie doesn't say it, it's not so. So it's like, no, he is just Wen Wu.
Yes.
Like he never had a crazy name like the Destroyer or the Mandarin or what have you. He's just a guy. Which I was like, oh, that's interesting. They're not okay, so I guess he's not the Mandarin. The Mandarin was never a real thing.
And before we started this podcast, there's on Disney Plus, and I saw this. I didn't know it was connected to Shang-Chi. There's a short of Trevor.
Oh yeah.
Of like how he gets captured and taken out of prison. It's small. It's a real like teaser for the film, but it works. Mm-hmm. Chat says, I like how when they found their way through and then you got to see all of the exotic creatures and all I can think was Jurassic Park. Got nothing on this. If it wasn't for Jurassic Park, you wouldn't have all those awesome creatures. But yes, that is it did have Jurassic Park vibes. They were even in a truck that or in a four-wheeler,
like a Humvee,
like like a Jeep, like they were on a Jurassic Park tour. All those creatures reminded me of like Chinese art, of old Chinese art and
like
everything
statues
coming back.
And architecture,
things of warding off evil spirits, wow! I just put that together. I can't believe it took me that long to put that, because a lot of Chinese mythos is they put a lot of things up. Even the way of their architecture is built to ward off bad vibes, or bad spirits. And I just realized this whole mystical place is literally there to guard the world from evil spirits, from soul-sucking Cthulhu spirits.
Exactly.
Yeah, the lions and the animals were great. It was weird. The third act like literally took such a turn from the rest of the film, but they made it work. Why is that, Jeff? How, like, can you explain that to me? Why did that work?
It works because of all the stuff that you've seen already. Because I was kind of the same. Like when we actually got to Talo and like, I mean, first of all, when what's his name, the little pet that Trevor has, the cute fluffy thing with wings and no face.
Yeah, what's his name? His name was his name. Let me see.
Chat will tell us. But,
Kate. What was the fluffy bird thing name? Morris? Moray? More. It was like Mormon. It was some like Maurice. Yes, the rotisserie chicken. Yes, the rotisserie chicken with wings.
But yeah, like you see, like the quote unquote horse creature, like when they stop the car suddenly, and it's this like unicorn. It's just like beautiful angelic thing, and like I was having kind of like D&D visuals where I was like, oh, this is like Forgotten Realms with like this is like the good elegant side of the monster manual, you know what I mean? And I was like, this is kind of weird considering we were in San Francisco, like just driving on a bus listening to hip hop music like 45 minutes ago. But it's because we've already been to Asgard. We've already been to Wakanda. It's the same thing where in Endgame, it's like, really? Tony Stark built a time machine? And it's like, dude, like the Sanctum Sanctorum exists.
Yeah.
Like sorcery is a thing. Like we've been to nowhere with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Aliens exist, and you're gonna fucking like hold court on time travel.
Yeah.
Like you can buy into it at this point. So that's what I think with why that works is because we've already been to so many places, and this is another one.
Yeah, we kind of expect it. I also think that the film did a good job at just constantly talking about it, because anytime they talked about their mom, you learn, oh, she's from somewhere else. Oh, she's from somewhere. Your mom's. She talked about all these things. She talked about all these creatures. She talked about, and I think when they introduced the rotisserie flying chicken, it's a shock for the characters, but it's also a shock for the audience, right? Like the characters, like, what the heck? And you would think like it's played off as a joke, but I think it really is to. It's like when you jump into a pool, like you know that the pool is going to be cold, and so like you shock your system by jumping into the pool and like to prepare yourself for how cold it is, and then you're good for the rest of like your swim inside the pool.
Right,
you know what I mean? So I think that's what Morris is supposed to do, is like he's supposed to like give a jolt of like, hey, we're entering the third act, things are about to get weird. Boom.
And I think they do it that way because they want the audience to feel the way that the characters do.
Exactly.
Because I was just thinking, like, during that opening sequence, it's like, well, like when he finds her, like, wouldn't it be interesting if like we saw like fantastical creatures? Because she mentions in her voiceover, like, it was a mystical land of fantastical creatures. Like, wouldn't it be cool, like when she's like by the stream and stuff, if there were like little creatures like running around? But they hold off on it. They don't overload you. They don't top load you with that. They hold back so that you're in the same place that the characters are. And I kind of like that. Like it's the same thing that like when they're in the cell right before they meet Trevor for the first time, and Katie has that moment of like, yesterday I was driving cars into valet, and now like a lot of crazy stuff is happening.
Right.
And as an audience member, you're like, yeah, she got a point. I feel the same way.
Yeah, they did a good, and that's like, again, that's why I gave it the 8.5. It's because it's like they pay attention to their audience, and they're thinking about their audience through the entire film, and you can see how they're holding our hand, and what techniques they use to make sure that we're having an enjoyable and exciting experience the whole time. And chat saying like those things played a role as porgs, and yes, and I hate to say this, this kind of hurts me. They played the same role as porgs, but they did it in a more successful manner. Like,
because they actually They didn't just look cute. They actually like fought in the battle and
not only that, but they
had a relationship with the characters.
They served as a purpose for the audience, like what we were saying. Like how you're saying how they held off on showing them with the mother, right? Like they held off on showing them with the mother because and it's the same reason why they introduced Trevor at the same time that they introduced the rotisserie chicken, is that Trevor is really weird, and he's like this. He's more of a comic relief character than Katie, and he is giving you these vibes of like, all right, things are gonna get weird. Things are just gonna go off the rail. So like he's just prepared. Like him and the bird are mentally preparing the audience for what's to come. The porgs are just there for merchandising. Like that's it. Yeah. Like they're just there to be cute. Whereas like, even though Trevor is kind of like an well, he's not kind of, he literally is an ex machina. Trevor's an ex machina for them. You take that back, Panda. You take that back right now. You take that. Don't you put that on me, Panda.
Just because rotisserie, what are we calling him? Fluffy rotisserie,
flying rotisserie
porgs does not mean all of Marvel is better than all of Star Wars.
But whereas the porgs, even though they're there, they don't serve the audience, nor do they serve the plot, right? Because this creature, one says everything your mother has told you is true. And then 2 helps them get through the maze, and 3 is an ex machina, but it provides purpose in the plot. And then you get there, and it's like, oh, there's more of them, and you've connected with this little creature through Trevor, and then you it's like, oh, it's so cute. And then you see them fighting, and you're like, yeah, get them. And yeah. I don't know if one died on screen or something like that, but then that would be sad.
There was no Return of the Jedi Ewok moment, which I was really glad about. We lost a lot of good humans, but all of the animals survived because we don't want to piss people off.
we still gotta sell the toys,
Exactly.
Yeah. No. The third act was crazy, but it does work, and that does make sense. I genuinely was confused why it was working, but like sitting here and talking about it, it literally is, the movie holds your hand and it protects you throughout the whole thing. And I'm please forgive me. You know me, Jeff. Who's the actress who plays as his aunt?
Michelle Yeoh.
Oh my gosh, I love Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my gosh.
First of all, just getting her in the movie is a freaking coup. Because it's like, yeah, dude, if Marvel is going to do anything about Asian culture, like Michelle Yeoh, gotta get her. But the fact that, like, she gets a fight scene, like, it's not a hardcore fight scene, but it's more of like a training thing. But the fact that she gets a fight scene with, hotshot, I'm about to be a star, Simu Liu, and kicks his ass.
Yup.
Dude, she's like Michelle Yeoh is like in her 50s, and dude, she's like so good, strong and so graceful during that scene. Like, I love that scene. I was like this is just like a training. This is just part of a training montage, but I love this. This is so cool.
This is gonna sound weird. I mean this in the most like complimentary way possible. There are quite a few guys in their 50s that like look good, like Jason Statham, The Rock is about to get there, basically the cast of Fast and Furious. So but Michelle Yeoh, like, that's an inspiration to me right there. Like, I don't know why, anytime I see her, I mean, like, as in, like, I'm so inspired and so motivated. It's, she's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely, dude.
I'm such a,
like, that's just what she does.
I talked about it in, like, the non-spoiler cast a little bit. So we talked about the story. We talked I want to talk about the characters. I briefly went over this in the non-spoiler class. The third act really good for the main character, and I think the third act. We keep talking about the third act. It's just it's so crazy. Like, okay, so I do want to talk about the characters. I do want to talk about like the father, right? How I like how, and chat said this earlier, and I think this is real important. I like how like the father has this kind of like, what's he gonna do next kind of vibe up until like the end of the second act, and then you're like, oh, okay, well he's full on evil, because he's kind of like a boogeyman, and then when you get to the flashback scene with him, you're like, oh, he's not half bad, he's not that bad, and then.
Right.
I'm really happy
because all of the terrorism happened off screen.
Right.
We're just told about it in narration.
If we're told about it, then it's okay, right? He's already redeemed in my eyes, which is really smart on them. And so, but also I like what they did with Katie. I said how like they set her up as the driver. And they gave her the bow and arrow, and they make fun of this towards the end of the film where they're at the bar with their friends, and they're like, oh yeah, and I just learned how to shoot a bow and arrow like yesterday, and but I like how like she's genuinely just a friend.
Yes, I swear to God, I really hope that their relationship remains platonic. I don't want them to hook up. If they do become romantic, let it happen in like phase 6, you know. Like because it's so refreshing, you know. It's like Thor's got Jane and Stephen Strange has Rachel McAdams, Christine, and I'm just like Tony had Pepper. You know, it's nice to just Peter Parker's got Mary Jane, like Peter Quill and Gamora have their thing. Like we've got all these like couples, we've got all these ships happening. It would be nice to see the superhero and his companion just be friends. Would be really nice without any sort of like. I would love. Think it'd be interesting if like there was no romantic thing.
Yeah, like Spider-Man and Friends, 100%. Yeah, it's like
exactly.
They even talk about it with the grandma in the beginning. Yeah, the grandma's like, it's like, when are you two gonna get married? And he's like, no, we're just friends, grandma.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I like in the very beginning of the movie, I said this about Idris Elba's character whenever we were talking about Suicide Squad. We first see him as an adult after the flashback, the initial flashback. And the first thing he does, he hits his alarm. He's like, ugh, does a deep sigh, and then does some push-ups. Yeah. I can't tell you how relatable that is. That like, but right off the bat, it tells us that this guy's disciplined. He's disciplined.
He does it even if he doesn't want to.
Exactly, like he's very disciplined. But then right after that, they show he's irresponsible. So those are two kind of like clashing ideals, and it's like, okay, so but I like how they like those two ideals start coming closer and closer and closer together as the movie gets to its end result, and then at the very end he learns how to mix the two and still be himself while accepting his past, because he's disciplined because of his past, but he rejects his past. But he's irresponsible because that's kind of the person he wants to be moving forward. He wants to just live a normal life, like how he felt when he was with his mother. And then, like, as the movie progresses, he's kind of like jumping back and forth between the two. Mm-hmm. And it's a very rudimentary way of looking at it, but it was one of the first things that I saw, and I was like, okay, well, he did push-ups. Like, usually, you know, unless they just made him do push-ups just to do push-ups. But I was like, okay, he's very disciplined. Maybe that was just to show, oh, he works out. This is why he's buff. No, it did serve a point in the movie, and I thought that was really good. Katie's growth in the film. Okay, it's weird because there's a lot of characters that get introduced, and they all go through growths. and it's all subtle.
Yeah.
And I think because it's subtle, I can't get mad at it. I can't dislike it. Because they don't just throw it in your face,
Yeah,
and they don't make it like a
like
huge thing.
because the overall theme of the movie is not, and the messaging is not necessarily uh, aspire to be better. Well, I don't know. Like the whole no, I like the, I don't know. I got bored with my sentence.
Hold on. I'm going to go off topic for a second. So chat says, what I didn't understand is if they had the sister's address, why did the dad want them together? He brought them together because he knows where they were for the past 10 years. I believe you putting that in parentheses means that's your theory. If so, then yes. Also, Jeff, whenever they were talking to her dad and like she was like, he basically said, "Oh, I've always known where you guys were." I immediately thought of like your D&D character Trevor. I don't know if you had the same thought, but I thought about you. I thought about Trevor.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I did to Trevor in Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, yeah,
Well, I mean,
I've
but
always known where you were.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because like and this again like plays into the layers of Wenwu as a quote unquote villain. Like he says, you know, I gave you 10 years to live your life. And I can kind of see it that like when Shang-Chi doesn't return after 3 days, like, I mean, he's the most powerful guy. He's one of the most powerful people on the fucking planet. Like, he knows where Shang-Chi is. Like,
Yeah.
it's that, again, same thing, going back to Tony Stark and time travel. I bring this up because it's just something that always sticks in my craw, but like, people at the time were like so like they thought that Tony Stark inventing or figuring out time travel was such an ex machina kind of moment where they're like, oh wow, they come over to his house and they're like, we want to build a time machine, and he's like, no, I don't want to. But then like 2 hours later he figures out time travel. Really? But in my mind, I'm like, you guys don't think that fucking Tony Stark hasn't been trying to figure out time travel for the last 5 years since the snap happened?
Yeah.
I guarantee he's been doing this in the background. Now, that contradicts my whole if the movie doesn't say it, it doesn't count thing. But Endgame is different. There's a lot of stuff that happens off screen in that movie. Anyway, but like, but again, it's that thing of like, yeah, like he says like, I gave you 10 years to live your life. Like I took that to mean Wenwu as a father is going like obviously like instinctually he's probably angry and frustrated, like you were supposed to do this thing and then return home and you didn't. Why didn't you? But I think in his mind he kind of goes, he takes a breath, he stop breathes, counts to 3, and he goes, all right, motherfucker, like you wanna leave my fortress, you want to leave my guidance, my power, like all of the food, water, shelter that I provide you, if you want to leave that behind, fine, I'll let you go do your thing, da da da. And he uses that to throw it back in his face where he's like, I gave you 10 years to live your life, and where did that get you?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, like you're still gonna like we're still gonna be a family. And again, like that's the thing that just makes him such an interesting layered villain and makes him it's kind of heart-wrenching towards the end, where it's just like he just wants his family back.
He really does.
He
That's literally what he wants.
Except that she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, theoretically, there's a version of this story where it's like, okay, well, yeah, like we can be a family again, the 3 of us, but you got to stop this whole crusade to find Ta Lo and unlock the gate and everything. Like they probably could have been fine, you know.
Yeah.
Like Shang-Chi, even like that, the whole like conversation by the lake of like, I'm gonna kill him. Like that's why that conversation happens, is because he realizes Dad's lost it. He's not gonna stop.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna be able to reason with him. So yeah, I think that he very much knew exactly where they were and was just keeping tabs on them until he was like, all right, I gave you your time. Let's stop fucking around. You're coming home now.
Right. And you know what? That's exactly how I would have put it too. And which it also explains why Glad he didn't instantly age when he took the rings off to have a family, right? He didn't
Oh yeah, that would have sucked.
1,000 years just catch up to him. Oh no! Oh no! That's horrible. Just gets dusted. Yeah, and like, it's weird because we were talking about this the other night during D&D. How like sometimes it's just nice having like a villain, and he
Right.
kind of fulfills this, but like in a weird way. You know what I mean? You still sympathize him, but he is always just bad.
Yeah, like I kind of feel like Wenwu is the antithesis to what we were talking about, because I think the point that Yoslin was making is like yes, obviously, like you want to have layered, dynamic villains who have sort of different motivations and are complex, but sometimes it's nice to just have a guy who's just pure fucking evil, who's just like kill, 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 and that is fine, but I think the MCU kind of is that a lot of times. Like, I mean, the big ones that stick out to me, just because I love the actors so much, are Thor: The Dark World and Doctor Strange. Like,
It's so funny.
Christopher
Panda's
Eccleston-
saying the same thing. Panda's like, he's human, and then Panda just brought out he's not a crazy being like Dormammu.
Oh well, yeah, Dormammu definitely. But I was also talking about Caecilius, the Mads Mikkelsen character, because there's nothing going on with that character. And again, I'm not shitting on writers, but there's nothing going on with that guy other than I want to awaken Dormammu so he can destroy everything.
Yeah,
It's like,
You don't
okay,
care
well,
about
where's the complexity? And like, same thing with Christopher Eccleston in Thor: The Dark World. Like, I'm reading through. I don't think I've actually talked to you about this, but I'm reading through the Jason Aaron run of Thor that he did in 2016, I think it was, which is what Taika Waititi is using as his kind of inspiration for Thor: Love and Thunder, which is the next Thor movie. So I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna like I've been watching these movies and watching YouTube videos about the comics. I'm gonna read the comics first this time. So there's like a couple of things that I'm trying to read through before the shows and the movies come out.
Ooh, that's
But-
smart.
But like the character of Malekith is kind of it's in a way it's Malekith is to Thor the way that Joker is to Batman.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
he's one of
that's his
Thor's
arch
like
nemesis.
rogues gallery. That's like
Yeah.
the big one. Like,
Really?
I mean,
Okay.
you have like different enemies like come through like here and there, but like Malekith is the one who is like he's prime. He's, like, the
Malekith
main guy.
was in Dark World, right?
was in Dark World.
Yeah.
Which Dark World I still have not seen.
It's okay.
Just
Okay.
for the record.
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. It's real quick.
Okay.
The Thor movies, the first Thor movie. Shout out to Cosmonaut Marcus. Dutch angles. That's all I gotta say about that first movie. The second movie, I like it. I don't know where it gets all its hate. Like I've seen it twice. And the first,
Is it the D&D factor because there's like elves and shit?
I guess
It's like more of a
doesn't-
fantasy film.
It is more of a fantasy film. I don't know. Like maybe I need to watch it a third time. I do not know where the hate comes from. I watch it, and I watched it a second time with Caitlin. And even Caitlin was like, that film wasn't too bad. And I was like, yeah, no, it's not. So like, if you do end up watching it, please tell me. Maybe
Okay.
I'm just like biased. Like even the first Thor film has like, it's not like it has a good story. Like it has a decent story that it's trying to tell, but you just can't see anything in the first Thor movie. The cinematography in that movie ruins. The editing of that movie ruins the first film. But the second film, like, just works for me. I don't know. Like, I don't... Like, I'm probably missing something, but I just...
Yeah.
When you read before you watch, it's always disappointing. It can be. Me and Jeff, we went in depth about this. We'll probably do a whole episode about, like, how we... educate ourselves before a film and how like it ruins films for us. We could definitely do like a whole episode on that.
Yeah. But what I was saying is, so like Malekith, same thing. Like in Thor: The Dark World, and this is very true to Malekith in the comics. He just wants to destroy. It's going to DC for a second. Steppenwolf in the theatrical version of Justice League. It's
Yeah.
like, I am here because I want to destroy, because I want to kill, I hate life. And it's like, give me more, give me something more. And that's what I thought was really interesting here is that he, like, granted, obviously, the version of Wenwu that we are told about in the opening sequence, yeah, he's that guy. Like,
Yeah.
I want to dominate, I want to assimilate as much wealth and power as I possibly can, and I don't care who I have to step on in order to get it.
He's like
He is that
Genghis
guy.
Kong.
Yeah, exactly. He's a ruler. He's a conqueror. But what we see him in the context of this film, in the context of the story, his motivation is not world domination or to wipe out all of existence or, you know, any of those kind of classic plots. He wants his fucking wife back, man.
Yeah. It's such a
so
sad thing. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I found that really refreshing. Like, again, like the same thing of like, you know, it's the hero's journey. It hits a lot of the same beats that we've already seen before, but in the context of the greater MCU, it's like, all right, Tony Leung, welcome to the top 3 MCU villains. Like, there's Thanos, Killmonger, and you, bro. Loki doesn't count. I don't count Loki. He's a main character now.
He's an anti-hero now.
Yeah, like when you have your own show and you're the hero, you're no longer like a villain. You've been converted.
I actually before this we started doing this episode. Yeah, I saw that the making of Loki, like the Loki docu, like the behind the scenes, and they kind of said the same thing you were saying just now.
Yeah, I mean he's part of the group now.
Yeah, the main villain, he was done really well. I mean, it was very cliche, you know, right when he doesn't even really redeem himself either. Like, he realizes that he's wrong.
Oh yeah.
And then he's not given a chance to redeem himself, and he's gonna. I guess he saves his son because holy crap! But like that scene where Shang-Chi like disses him, like basically says, you know, would mom even want to come back to you if she saw you like this?
Oh yeah.
And like he gets pissed and freaking 1-inch punches him into the lake. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you pissed. Like, that was the one thing you shouldn't have said. Like, you pissed him off. And the worst thing is like I felt for his dad. I was like, I mean, like, you don't talk back to your parents. Yeah, you'll get whooped. They'll bring out that whip and what you say to me? And like, oh, dude, it was just one of those things where I was like, yeah, you kind of deserve that one, dude. Like, and it's weird because, yeah, I guess I do have to admit that I was wrong. He is a very complex, compelling character, and the only reason he is because they give him one thing to hold on to, is that, like, yeah, the Falcon punch. They give him one thing to hold on to, and that's his love for his family, and he wants to get them back, and he wants to be with them. The sister
to your point about the whole, like, don't say that about my wife because I will 1-inch punch you.
Yeah.
To be fair, like, in Shang-Chi's defense, 30 seconds ago, he straight up said, like, you couldn't even protect your own mother. You just stood by and watched her die. Bitch, I was 7. And there were, like, 30 guys with guns. Like, fuck off, I'm gonna save her life.
Yeah. But that's, like, kind of what Panda's saying right here, where I don't know... Panda's like, all immigrant children are sighed in unison when he said that. Yeah, like, all minorities.
Yeah.
We all felt that. We were all like, oh, Yeah, like we're all like,
Yeah.
you done did it. You done talk back to your parent. Like, yeah, your dad can say whatever he wants, but you don't say it back to dad.
Yeah, it's true.
But you are right. Like he's like, oh well, you pissed him off. So the sister, I rounding off the characters, the sister, she didn't fully develop, in my opinion. I think they left her kind of like Loki. They left her like she kind of stayed the same throughout the film, and then like you get to the end credit, the very end credit, and you see that she takes after her father, and we already know this because she did start her own ring, and she even says, "My dad wouldn't let me part of his empire, so I made my own empire." And she's the perfect person to kind of take over for her dad, because she trains as hard as Shang-Chi, but she also, I think she thinks more like her father. She's not even that upset with a lot of the things that he says. It's almost like she expects him and she knows that he would say these things. Whereas like Shang-Chi, even though he was kind of like his crafts weapon, like his right sword, his sword to that was to be weld to kill people, he seemed to be more emotionally set back by the things that his father did. Now she also obviously she was still in love with her dad and the mythos of her dad, but she was hurt by him, or else she wouldn't have run away. Did I miss? I'm so sorry. This is out of nowhere. I saw this earlier in chat. Did I miss someone subbing? Did my alert not go off? If someone did sub, thank you for that sub. I really appreciate that. I think I missed that, but I thought I didn't. I love how the aunt says they are all trained equally, and you felt her loss and loneliness. Yeah, because it's almost like he had a favorite. And the second that she was talking to Katie, and she was like, my dad, I didn't want to deal with me after mom died because I reminded him too much of her. I was like, I already knew that, right? I was like, all right, well, you're the daughter. You're going to remind her of his wife. But that idea of the equality carries over in the cutscene. So there is some growth, right? She does give people what she didn't have, as like what every kid does. Like they do what they feel like their parents failed at, and they try to make up for it for the next generation, for their kids, or for their legacy. They try to make up for it. And yeah, I saw you said that. Yeah, I tried to mention it before in chat, Panda, but I think I was like in full intro mode and full like trying to transition into the non-spoilers or into the spoilers version, and I see it up there, and it's been in the back of my head the entire time we've been talking. I was like, I just wanted to give shout outs. Yeah, isn't that funny? I thought the same thing, but the aunt said how much the son looked like his mom. I thought the same thing, but they always say that. That's blame J.K. Rowling for that. Aww. They say that about, and my boys look like me. I felt hard on that. Like, oh, did you? Oh, that's. I love that. I freaking love that. I'm so, because I can't experience that, right? Because I don't have kids yet. I love hearing that perspective. I love seeing other people's perspective in films. That's great. Oh wow, I didn't even think about like being a parent and watching this film.
Yeah.
Like, and how that affects. Wow. I thank you for sharing that. Just say nothing and nod, and he'll forget you are there. Look.
And then immediately it's like, you, Katie girl, what is your Chinese name?
She nods and then looks over.
And the sister's like, I don't know. What you want?
Figure it out. You're on your own now. That was a great spot.
That was good. One thing I wanted to make sure we talk about.
Yeah, please.
Going back to Katie really quick. She has my favorite comedic moment in the entire MCU.
Okay.
Because it's a joke, but it's not the Marvel joke that we converse about a lot about like it doesn't undercut the drama that's happening. It's not there just for like cheap laughs, kind of like the dude with the cell phone on the bus, that like that to me read very like, oh, this is that quote unquote Marvel humor. Now, he didn't annoy me as much as I thought he was going to. Like when he first showed up, I was like, stop it. Don't show me the fight on a cell phone. Show me the fight. What is it? Okay, I get it. Social media.
Dude,
But he grew on me a little bit.
That felt so. I had like an existential crisis right there. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's me." I was like, "That's gonna be me." I'm like, "No!" He made me laugh. I love that part. Anyways, keep going. I'm sorry.
But there's this great introduction to her character where they're telling the story of when they first met, and she talks about how this dude was about to throw down with Sean.
Yep.
But she just started reciting the lyrics to Hotel California.
Yep.
Because it confuses people. Like they don't expect it. And then the fight is diffused and then they like go away. And I loved that just there, like on principle alone, because that's always been my theory. If I ever get into a fight, like I know that some dude actually did this and it became a viral video.
Yeah, he started.
But my theory for my entire life has always been, if I ever am about to get into a fight, I'm just gonna strip naked and confuse the guy. I'm just gonna get naked and be like, "You want to fuck? You want to go? Come on, touch it. Let's go." Just because I want to like throw the person off and confuse them so that I don't actually have to fight. Anyway, that's probably too much information about me. So, but what we think is just sort of this comedic anecdote turns out to be set up for a glorious payoff when they're climbing down the scaffolding and she's being chased and a fucking ninja drops down in front of her, wields a blade that he's about to strike her with, and she just goes, "On an old desert highway with the wind in my hair." And I busted laughing. I was doubled over. I was applauding. Everyone in the theater was laughing and applauding. It's my because it's just so perfectly shot and cut. The timing of the music cutting out is perfect because all you hear is her voice and like a subtle like wind sound effect because they're like up in the sky and stuff. Oh my god, that was easily like it's my favorite comedic beat in the entire MCU. It's just perfect setup that you don't know is set up, and then it's paid off splendidly.
It is a good payoff. It's the movie, and again, I'm gonna be a broken record. I always am. That's what makes this movie so great, is that it sets things up to pay them off later. Everything is set up for later, even the jokes. And that's why the jokes hit and they work, because they're set up. It was a great scene. It was I wasn't expecting it, right? It was another one of those things where I thought it was like a throwaway line, or like okay, we see what type of person she is, or we're learning a little bit about the history. And it was great. I'm glad I'm happy you brought that up. No, that was touching. I don't know if there was any jokes that stood out for me, right? I think like for me, I spent most of the movie, and this is probably what distracted me from a lot of the movie. This is why I wish I was more of a casual viewer and I just experienced the movie for what it is, because I'm spending like a lot of the movie trying to understand where they got this from the source material, right? Like I'm trying to connect this with my childhood. I'm trying to I'm like, wait, but you're the Mandarin, but you're not the Mandarin. You're not the Mandarin I know. You're this guy. And like maybe for about 45 minutes of the movie, like that's just what's going through my head.
Right.
Like nearly half the runtime. And it shouldn't have. And it only was because I'm having that internal struggle of those things. But I think like you shouldn't ever let those things get in the way of what you're actually experiencing. Like sometimes you just gotta turn that part of your brain off. Just experience the movie for kind of what it is, and sometimes just watch the movie as if it's like its own standalone film, like even if it's not connected to the MCU. And speaking of which, this was just the weirdest way for me to segue into this. Speaking of which, the third act talks about like multiple dimensions. Hold on. I gotta address this with chat for a second. The karaoke credit scene brought it all together. Yes, it did. That was a great setup joke. I love that.
Yeah.
Me too. I apologized out loud for laughing. Watch it over several times. You can just enjoy yourself. Yes. Stream movie night. There actually is going to be one. Me and Jeff have talked about this. We're going to watch Twilight. I've never seen Twilight, and we're going to have a stream movie night with Twilight. Join the Discord. I don't know if my moderator's here. He didn't want to have spoilers, so I'm going to put the Discord in the chat for you guys.
Oh, yes. It's going to happen.
I think did my Discord thing work? I'll try to get it work.
No.
It did not work. This is okay. So I'm going to get back on topic for our podcast viewers, but I'll get this thing to work. I'll get my moderator in here to make it work or something like that. It's probably not working because my other moderator got rid of what that was connected to. So, just, cause it was on TV. I've only seen the finale because it was on this TV. Yeah. Kate, if you could fix that, we got rid of if you could put the Discord on Stream Elements, because we're only using Stream Elements now. Kate, yeah, we got rid of Nightbot. Refugee got rid of him, and I didn't realize that. So if you could do that, and if you could put the Discord in the thing for the chat, I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, my moderator's gonna get to work on it. One of my moderators is my wife. Please thank her. She's great. She comes in handy when my other ones aren't here.
Thank you, Caitlin.
So, all right. So back on topic for the podcast viewers. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the weird thing I was getting into was that oh my gosh. Okay, so sorry. I know I get off topic. I get distracted a lot. I'm watching these like trailers and stuff. A lot of the promotions for the movie that I just have playing in the background. And like so much of this stuff kind of spoils the movie. Like they got the dragon there, the toys and the dragon. And look, there's the fuzzball dude. What the
dragon's in the trailer.
That's true. The dragon is in the trailer.
Yeah, and the fuzzball isn't necessarily a spoiler. You're just like, what the fuck is that thing?
You're like, what the heck is that?
Well, like, because even on Twitter, as I was, which again, by the way, if you don't want to be spoiled for anything ever, stay off the internet.
Thank you, Yami. Thank you, Yami.
But I was scrolling through Twitter like Saturday morning, and like somebody was like Shang-Chi, and then there was a picture of the little rotisserie thing with wings or whatever. And I was like, I thought it was just something from an anime, and they were like making a meme out of it. Like, oh, there's something in Shang-Chi that reminds me of this faceless fuzzball creature with wings from some anime. I didn't even realize that it was from Shang-Chi. So like, it was weird. Like I saw that thing, and then I saw the movie, and I was like still surprised because I was not expecting it to be in the actual movie.
Right. Okay. Well, I think, yeah, I had a similar experience with Shazam, and I think I told you the story. Like there was like pops of the Shazam family.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's not going to be in the movie. That's just in the comic books. I was like, why? And then it came in the movie, and I was still shocked, but I was like, oh, so it was in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, my horrible way of switching the dimensions. I wanted to talk about this. So the third act gets into like dimension hopping and like how this little village is actually from an advanced society, and these were their best warriors that are left here to protect this other dimension. So they're literally like their dimension's gone. They're not even from our dimension. Their dimension's gone. They lost it, but they're here to protect Earth and our dimension and all those other things, which is kind of sad when you think about it, and really cool. However, if you've been watching, I thought it was interesting how they did this, because if you've been watching Keeping Up with Disney, that's not the name of the show. I just was being redundant on how I speak. If you've been watching Disney and you've been seeing the like WandaVision, Loki, not Captain and Winter Soldier. but that is part of it. But if you saw WandaVision and Loki, then you know alternate dimensions has been kind of the fad of what's going on. So like when this showed up, I'm like, okay, like this is, I mean, like they're getting into the whole idea that other dimensions exist. And so whenever characters start to talk about it, whenever characters come, this like, this is just part of the new phase, or this is phase 4 or phase 5, whatever phase we're in. So I was like, oh, they're really leaning into this. I was not expecting it, but as a audience member that's been keeping up with everything that's been going on, I was also not that surprised. I was like, of course, this another alternate dimensions in this episode as well. I was surprised at how subtle they brought it in, though. I know I say subtle. I mean, there was literally a giant Cthulhu monster, but like subtle as in they tell the story and it's just kind of like, yeah, we kind of got like we're doing like a whole dimension thing here, and like we're just protecting, and you know, not, they didn't go like crazy how they did in Loki, and they didn't make it a whole thing like how they did in WandaVision. And I think they did that because they're also keeping in mind for the people that have not watched the TV shows. Like they're also trying, like I think they're also really trying to involve, and it makes me wonder, and you said this at the very, very beginning of the show, it makes me wonder, how are they going to do this? Like, are the movies going to slowly start talking about the dimensions, or are they going to go off of the assumption that you haven't, that you've seen all the TV shows as well?
Well, the way that I think about it too is it's not just that they're gonna start doing it in the movies so that, like, if you don't watch the TV shows, you still understand what's going on. I think the main reason they're doing it is so that if you don't understand multiverse theory, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because, like, and this is doesn't even, it's not even specific just to comics. Like, this is just nerd media in general of like movies and TV shows. But like the term multiverse to me, like, I instantly know what that means. I can wrap my head around that. But like, if you're just like especially like young people, like if you're watching these movies and then suddenly like we start to get into multiverse, maybe they can't wrap their head around that. So I think that they're making the multiverse and alternate dimensions, alternate timelines, like this whole concept, they're seeding it into everything so that by the time we get to Multiverse of Madness, or maybe it's even beyond that, like as we start to get further and further down the line, when shit really hits the fan, you like, it doesn't matter if you've seen the shows or if you've only seen the movies or if you've only seen one of the shows or one of the movies, which if you're at this point, if you're along for the ride, you're along for the ride, let's be honest. But it's to make sure that like when shit really hits the fan, like you know what's going on and you're not lost. I think is kind of the main thing, because again,
yeah,
I still don't know, like obviously No Way Home's gonna deal with it, Doctor Strange 2 is gonna deal with it, but I don't know what the grand plan for Phase 4 is, because the other thing we have to remember, the way that if Marvel is going to continue the work that they did as with the Infinity Saga, really this is just part 1. We still have Phase 5 and then Phase, you know, it's like it's going to be this ever evolving thing. So it's hard to know, like, you know, like we talked a lot during this conversation as well in other conversations about like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, the climax, you know, inciting incident, rising action, falling action, like all of these narrative terms. It's hard to know where in the giant narrative we are. Like we're still just in like introducing stuff. So I think I rambled a little bit at the end there. And
no,
didn't
I like it.
answer your question.
You did though. Like I think you really did answer my question, because you bring up a fantastic point, that like it is there to serve as a plot device. and that's the important thing. But but yeah, like the whole idea with the phases, and you got me thinking. Hold on. You got me thinking is with like this is actually technically speaking. Okay, technically, Black Widow's the first part of the phase, but this movie is the first part of like phase 4. Like this is the first after Snap movie of phase 4. No, Spider-Man was. Gosh, it's just been so long since Spider-Man Far From Home has been out.
Far From Home was the end of phase 3.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So this is the first movie to phase 4. Yeah, like who cares? Who really cares? Like, and it's weird because I've been watching these TV shows, and this is the first time that I feel like I don't know, as much as I liked Black Widow, this movie just makes me way more hyped.
I think I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you. This is the first new character since Captain Marvel.
Yes. This is like the first new character. It's the first new, like, it feels like we're, because even the end credits scene, like, it feels like we're entering a new arc. It finally feels like we're in phase 4. Everything else felt like it was like the epilogue of phase 3, but this finally feels like we're like in a new era. We're in an usher of a new era.
Yeah, the thing that I really liked, and this is kind of what I was alluding to in our pre-spoiler talk, because I know sometimes people don't want to know how much the movie affects the greater MCU, so that's why I held off on talking about it. But what I was going to say was I would even recommend this to someone who has never seen a single MCU movie, because the thing that I love so much about this movie is that it works until you get to the post credits. Obviously, it works completely on its own. Yes, like they reference the snap, like, you know, because the friend at the beginning is like, we're living in a world where half the universe can just get blipped out of existence, like all of a sudden. And yeah, like Wong is there fighting Abomination, but then he just pieces out. And it's like funny. It's like, hey, there's this guy who does magic talking to this giant alien thing. I don't know what that is. It's just a creature. I'm in a magical world. I can roll with this. And like, that's the thing that I thought was kind of amazing. Like, and yeah, he references, you know, you have Trevor Slattery, and when Wenwu, like when they're at dinner, he talks about like, there was a man who impersonated me and gave me the name the Mandarin, and he like does that. But it's like, if you haven't seen Iron Man 3, then you're just meeting this guy and you're like, oh, that's the actor guy that he was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, even in the post-credit scenes, it's continuing the journey of Shang-Chi.
Yes.
It's not a commercial for No Way Home or Multiverse of Madness, or like yeah, Captain Marvel is there, and like she even says, oh, something's going on, I gotta take this, bye. And she like runs away. So, oh god, like what's going on in the Marvels? You know, maybe that's gonna tie into that movie.
I got a fun game for you.
Okay.
Was that scene scripted, or did Brie Larson actually just have something? I'm sorry.
Probably, I don't know. But yeah, like I loved the post-credit sequence. It's not just teasing you for, all right, like, here's the next thing. It's like, oh, Eternals is next up on the calendar. Here we go. It's like, no, it's teasing more Shang-Chi, which I was like, thank you.
Yes.
And then you have the post-credit scene, which you already talked about. And it's like, yes, we're just teasing more of what we just saw, as opposed to, all right, let's start getting hyped for what's to come.
When does Eternals come out? What are we looking forward to next, Jeff?
Well, especially after this, and that's a wonderful question, because my answer ties directly into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Eternals because I don't have a fucking clue who these people are.
Yeah.
Like, I know
no
who they
idea.
are because they are mythological beings. Like, I know Gilgamesh and Icarus, and I know stuff from myth and folklore because that's who these characters are. But I don't, like, I'm so eager, same way with Shang-Chi, to just be introduced to stuff that I don't have a frame of reference for. Like, I don't know what the story is going to be. And again, like, the whole thing of, like, they have, like, they have gently helped humanity along, but they have stood back and let so many bad things happen. What's happening now that they finally have to step in and take action?
Right.
I'm excited to find out, because I don't know. It's like, it might have something to do with Celestials.
You told me.
I don't know what those are.
Yeah, I know very little about Celestials. I know more about Celestials than I know about Shang-Chi, but it's still very little. And honestly, I think what I'm going to start doing on my stream, which you can catch me at Digital Hero. Damn it, I always do it wrong. Well, there goes my plugin. I'm not even going to do a shameless plug anymore. What I'm going to start doing on my stream is, I think I'm going to start, because I watch a lot of, like, I just don't have time for as much reading as I want to do, right? And, like, what I want to do is, honestly, go to the comic book store and buy comics, but I might just start reading comics on my phone. But what I do a lot is, like, there's these YouTubers that honestly deserve a lot of credit for what they do, and I might just start, like, doing react videos and, like, showing these people these YouTubers and telling them to go watch these YouTubers and on my stream, so that people, if they want to, they can be informed as well as they can see, like, the kind of stuff that I dive into before a movie comes out, and how I know the stuff that I know, as well as, like, I will download digital comics that I think are relevant, and I'll read them as well. So that's stuff that, like, I do, and it's that thing, again, me and Jeff could probably do a whole episode on that, like, I can't help it. Like, I want to know, like, I want to know what I'm getting myself into. But with Eternals and Shang-Chi, I'm going in blind, and I like going in blind. I love not knowing anything and letting the movie tell me. And then I did this with Green Knight. I love seeing it and then doing the research after, because I feel like if you watch the movie and then read the book, you're less disappointed. If that makes any sense. Like, you watch the movie and then you do the research and you read the book, and but they convert us away from being casual watchers so we can struggle with them. Dude, you'll struggle with the both of us, dude. Yeah, we'll convert you and question every aspect. Oh, I love watching the movies the way that I watch them. But at the same time, I hate it. Like, I wish I could see things in a perspective as the way that my wife sees them. But Caitlin, the more time she spent with me, she's getting really into movies and getting good into it. You know how I'm such a snob about choreographing? She's become kind of a snob when it comes to, like, fight scenes and choreographing. She knows what to look for in fight scenes, because I have so much respect for stuntmen and the things that they do. They don't get enough credit. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking about doing in my stream. But I've picked up this new habit to where, like, I start doing my research after I watch the film, because then it's like I see the creative liberties that the director took. So I don't go in there as a fanboy, right? And then I don't have this struggle while I'm watching the movie, being like, but that's not what happened to the movie. That's not what happened to the comic books. No,
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's literally what I am running into now with Thor: Love and Thunder, because first of all, Taika has cited he's reading this specific run as influence.
Okay.
The other thing
do you know the run?
It's a run that's written by Jason Aaron, and it was, like, around 2016, 2017.
Do you know what it's called by chance? If not, it's okay.
I think it's I can look it up real quick.
Is it the one with the God Killers?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So the first arc is Gore the God Butcher, and
No.
then it gets into
Jeff.
Female Thor.
Jeff.
What?
Okay, one, I've somewhat read that arc, but I used that arc for Itzel's story arc.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
When I was doing Itzel's, it was very much inspired, like Hassan and the other dude, her brother, Very much inspired by those arcs.
That's hilarious. I just dropped a link in the Discord chat.
Oh yeah, go check out the Discord chat. Check out the link if you wanna read comic books, or if you want to at least look. Lady Thor is awesome. I'm so happy that we're gonna get a Lady Thor. Oh my gosh.
But what I'm getting at is like, so we know that Gore the God Butcher has been confirmed as appearing in Love and Thunder. And just in case people haven't seen the announcement, I won't say who's playing him, but it is public knowledge. It's public knowledge, and we're in a spoiler talk anyway.
Yeah.
But Christian Bale is playing Gore the God Butcher.
I didn't know that. That's freaking awesome.
But here's the thing. Again, kind of going back to the whole notion that the comics are not, and the inspiration that we're drawing from, it's not necessarily like a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So in my head, I'm reading like I finished I'm already into Lady Thor now. So in my mind, I'm reading the whole Gore the God Butcher arc, and I get to the end and like complete it, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I love what they've done with this. This is such an interesting. He's such a great villain. There's complexity there, but also how they kind of turn it around at the end.
Yeah.
It's I won't get into the specifics just in case they do end up doing the movie, but it reminded me a little bit of the whole Ship of Theseus.
That's such a good.
I'm gonna mess with your logic of what you think you're doing, and that's gonna throw you off your game, kind of thing. I mean, it still is going. Obviously, it's like a big epic energy blast and stuff going on and all that kind of stuff. But
it's no longer the Odin Force.
Right.
It's the Thor Force. Yeah. Love that.
But I'm also looking at it and I'm going, wait a minute. He might not necessarily be the main villain of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He might just show up for like a scene or two. Maybe in this version, Gore the God Butcher is in jail. Like, he's imprisoned because, like, they already, the whole, like, God bomb thing, like, happened. And it's part of, like, the lore of the MCU in Asgard. Like, yes, many years ago, like, we didn't mention this in the previous movies, but thousands of years ago, Gore the God Butcher did this thing. And he's been held in a prison ever since. We must go find him. And they treat him like he's Hannibal Lecter. You know, like, we must go find him because he has information that will help us find this other bad guy who is the real villain. So that's the thing. Like, why I'm agreeing with, I forgot who it was. It was like, I think it was Panda, but somebody said, reading stuff before you watch it just makes it more disappointing.
Yeah.
I feel that now because I'm like, oh, that's right. Just because I read it doesn't, and I know that he's in the movie doesn't necessarily mean they're following this storyline.
Yeah. That's why, like, I'm trying this new thing where, like, because it helped me with Green Knight a lot. Because I went into Green Knight, I watched Green Knight, I was super confused. I was trying, and it's like one of those movies. I think Green Knight's just one of those movies I probably should have educated myself a little more on before I saw it. But I was still like, it was a movie that made me think, which was a good change of pace than just like turning off my brain and watching explosions. It was a movie that made me think, and it was a movie that made me like enjoy the art. Still a little too slow for my taste, but I could just be conditioned differently. Who knows? But then after I educated myself afterwards, I was like, it made me appreciate the film even more, and made me think back, and made me made it available for me for a second watch. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do this now with other medias, but I still have the habit of like doing some research before I watch the actual like stuff, because I just can't help myself. Like, because they put stuff in there for the people that know. There's Easter eggs in there, and it's so fun to catch those Easter eggs. Like, for example, the dude with the quote from Katie with the machete arm, the machete hand.
Razor fist.
Yeah, apparently I just don't know who that villain is. No idea who that villain is. And so like I'm pretty sure I'm also pretty sure
comics.
Yeah, I'm sure he's from the comics, which is why he probably stayed around. But I'm also pretty sure that that one dude, that Ibuki looking dude, that fights Michelle Yao at the end, I'm pretty sure
the Death Dealer.
Is that his
according
name?
to the credits. Yeah.
Okay.
Which again is weird. It's like we don't know anything about that character. Like
No.
he's just the right hand of Wenwu, and he's got a kabuki mask, and
Yeah.
he's like really good. But again, it's like one of those things where you look at the credits and you're like, Death Dealer? Who said that?
So
that wasn't in the movie.
that was a double. It was actually WV Girl who brought out the thing about like reading. When you watch it first, then the book becomes the iceberg rather than the disappointment that left your favorite. But that is a fantastic way of putting it. I like that. The book becomes the iceberg. Because you watch the film and you're only at the tip of the iceberg. And then you read the book and you're like, oh shit.
You get all the other shit.
You get all the other stuff. Remind me where I was.
You were talking about the Death Dealer, the kabuki.
Oh, right.
mask,
So there was one scene that kind of tricked me. I thought there would be more to it, and then I was like, oh no. So there's the scene where Shang-Chi is fighting Death Dealer, and then is like he's gonna go deal the final blow, and then he kind of like thinks back to how Death Dealer like trained him, and it's almost like this like flashback of like training him, and this small montage of like he was almost like this like senpai like pseudo father figure to him in a way. Then like Death Dealer's eyes widen like, oh, I'm gonna die. And for a moment I interpreted that as like, oh, maybe those weren't Shang-Chi's memories, maybe they were Death Dealer's memories. I was like, oh, are they gonna have like a moment later on, because his life gets saved? I was like, they're totally gonna have like a moment later on in the film. And then he gets.
Can I'm so glad that you brought up that moment. Can I tell you a thought that popped into my head?
Soul sucked. Yeah.
So the scene, the second big action sequence on the bamboo scaffolding outside of the building.
Yeah.
And then Death Dealer and Shang-Chi, they land on that little landing, and they're kind of like sparring, they're fighting. Shang-Chi is like about to stab him, but then in comes Wenwu, and then like the fight is dissipated, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go with me on this.
Okay.
But for a brief moment, because there was a line earlier. It's the flashback scene where Shang-Chi is about to go on the mission that he ultimately, like, where he kills the guy that killed their mom.
Yeah.
And Zhang Li is, like, sad because, like, he's going to be leaving her behind. Da, da, da. And she says something like, if Mom was here, and then he cuts her off and he goes, Mom is dead. And it occurred to me at this point, I was like, wait a minute. We haven't seen Mom die yet. We just have been told that Mom is dead.
Yeah.
And then when there was that moment where he's cutting back to the fight.
Oh, you thought.
I was thinking fucking Taskmaster all over again, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, the mom is behind that kabuki mask. And I'm so glad I was wrong, because I was like, but again, it's like, okay, that makes total sense. Like that would be a twist that the movie would do, because they just did it in the other movie. So it's a thing that could happen. That being said, it would be ridiculous for them to pull the same twist 2 movies in a row. But for a very brief moment, I was like, that's their fucking mom, dude.
Oh,
if that happens, I'm leaving this theater right now.
Oh, dude. Yeah, looks like chat thought the same thing. Like Wave Girl thought the same thing. That's, dude, that didn't even cross my mind. Cuz
I was like, don't you dare do the same thing twice.
That would have tripped me out. Holy shish kebab. Yeah, wow. We talked about characters. We talked about plot. We talked about choreographing, cinematography. I mean, the cinematography, you can have the best choreographing in the world. But if the cinematography is as good as the Jason Bourne fight scenes, it doesn't matter. The cinematography was fantastic in this film. It was like with the CGI added on there, and then there were points I felt like I was watching Spider-Man 2 all over again. Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. Whenever they like really hardcore integrated,
which makes sense because it was shot by the same guy.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's right!
Yeah.
That's right! You said this early in the film. Holy sh...
Yeah, dude,
Alright, God.
is
Fuck,
amazing.
dude! I gotta...
Yeah, dude.
I'm like, I need to stand up. Hold up.
Like, of course you were having flashbacks. It's the same dude.
Gosh, no wonder! Oh my gosh! I was getting Spider-Man 2, but wow! You said this in the beginning of the podcast. I even pulled it up on the stream, and I was like, I was highlighting Spider-Man 2, and just now my brain is like putting 2 and 2 together. Jeez, it's been a long day for me, okay? I just got off of work. And I felt that line when he said, left us to die, and Sis said, now you know how it feels. I felt that too. Okay, so I don't cry during films.
Oh, that's right. We got to talk about that.
I don't cry during films. And I'll like real quick note, the cinematography is really good. It's done by Bill Pope. It's done by Bill Pope, who did Spider-Man, and back when Spider-Man 2 came out, part of like the marketing was you're not going to be able to tell the difference between the CGI Doc Ock and Spider-Man and the real one. And that was like a big part of the marketing push, was like they're going to have this amazing fight scene. And that is a memorable portion of that film, is them fighting in Chicago. So I'm sorry, I'm laughing at my own joke. The way that the camera centers on and pans with the fighters, you know, that Bill Pope was directly speaking with the stuntmen, because like what they do is they probably did pre-vids, and they probably said, okay, this is where we're gonna have it, and like the stunt people also knew, like, hey, which camera do you want me to work with, like where's the camera gonna be, and like and they probably knew, like, because this stuff had to be choreographed. I don't think, if you ever seen Raid, I don't think that they were like improvising it, because in Raid it's a little bit of like, it's kind of a dance and art form. No, this was definitely like very much choreographed, very much like, you know, beat by beat. You're gonna go here, you're gonna go here, you're gonna go there. So you know that they knew where the camera's going to be set up. They'll do this thing where like the stuntmen will know how the scene is supposed to be set up, and they'll have other stunt people play the roles of the actors, and then they'll play out the scenes where they'll think the scenes are supposed to do.
They'll just film it like on a cell phone or something, so that they know exactly what the shots are.
And so then I'm so happy, because like, to compare this, we're going to compare this to Iron Fist, because it was brought up earlier on the podcast. The Iron Fist, the end of season 1 with the big finale against the one dude, they didn't have, like, you can tell there was no communication between the stunt team and the cinematographer, because it was just like, hey, how are we going to do this? Oh, we're just going to do a wide open shot. And it's like, which camera do you want me to work with? Which camera? Because I'm not going to actually hit the person. Like, we'll get close to hitting each other, but I need to know which camera. So that then it creates a lot of cuts, and it creates a lot of this and that. So if the stunt people know which cameras to work with, then they can make it look so much better. Fighting in Chicago, because there's no trains like that in New York. Love how you get accustomed to directors and the style, and you will love the movie before you see it, because who directs it. See, that's like, Jeff actually has he's actually got his toes in the industry. I'm just now getting into that. I'm just now like getting into like the crew. So like for me, when I see like a stunt coordinator and I'm like, oh, that guy's part of this film, I get excited. And this is new for me. I've always like only given like actors, so I'm starting to get to know directors now, and I'm starting to get to know cinematographers, and it's like it's making me enjoy the films and get hyped for the films even more, in a good and bad way. But like I said earlier, the way I watch movies, as much as I would love to watch movies with zero knowledge again, I don't think I would ever want to stop watching movies how I watch them now. I know I just want to learn more and more. With that being said, I went on a long tangent. I'm sorry, but we're on brand. This wouldn't be Digital Roundtable if we didn't get off topic. I don't cry a lot during movies. However, that scene where she was like, now you know how it feels, I was like, okay. But then that scene when they're on the dragon. I didn't just shrug my shoulders. I thought about my sister, and I thought about my own siblings, and I was like, I think, like, this is honest. I'm sharing something that I kind of don't want to share. I didn't even share this with my wife. I kind of like related to that scene a little too much, to the point where I wanted to I wanted to bring the scene down in my own head so that I wouldn't have the same feeling, because I have a very similar experience in my own life. And don't worry, me and my siblings, me and my family, we're all good. We're all good. But I have a similar experience in my own life where like I was like, damn, like I really hope my siblings don't feel that way, you know? And like we're good, we're on good terms. With like they come over and they play on my setup and crap like that, and like I love my sister to death, and she loves me right back, and we'll do anything for each other. But then that next scene where like he's holding on to her, and she's like, let go, and like you expect him to let go. That's what happens in every movie. It's like, you know, like and I thought that was it. I thought this was Katie, not Katie.
She was gonna be okay though.
Me too. I thought she was gonna be okay.
She was gonna die. Like I figured she had like a trick up her sleeve kind of thing.
Right. I was like, oh, she's gonna be fine. This is just her way of saying, I trust you. I know you'll come back now. But then when he's like, I'm not leaving you again.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's where I started tearing up, dude.
I was like, that, like, if I probably would have. I definitely felt like the tear ducts happening. I was like, oh my freaking gosh, like no. And like, and if it wasn't for the fact that I knew that Katie was getting, you know, gonna shoot the guy because they set it up, I was like, Katie, shoot the guy already. Like I actually I was like, shoot Cthulhu, please, because they did sit on that spot. They sat on that scene for like a good 8 seconds. And that felt like forever. I was like, they're just staring at each other. And he's like, I'm not letting go. He's like, I'm not leaving you again.
Well,
and she just smiles. She doesn't even argue.
Yeah. That's the groundwork that the preceding hour and 45 minutes does. That's a testament to them as actors, because like I'll just be blunt. That is a cliche moment.
It
like
is.
How many times in movies have we seen a character who abandoned their loved ones a long time ago and they've now resurfaced, and then there's some point where they look the person in the eye and say, I'm not going to lose you again.
Yeah.
Or I'm not leaving you again. You know, whatever it is. But I fucking started tearing up, and like I started laughing, like, or not laughing, but like, you know what I mean? Where I'm just like, cause like I had the real moment, like I let it affect me, kind of like what you were saying, and I just like felt the moment, and then I started crying even more because I was just laughing. I was like, dude, this is such a cliche moment. This should not get me, but it is, and it's getting me because I like this fucking movie so much. Let's go. I just got hyped all over again.
And that's why, and again, that's why I think like why both me and you rated this movie as an 8, whereas like a movie at a 7 does this cliche moment, but it doesn't. That's the thing. This movie does things that are done in other movies, but it does it with its own flavor, right? Like it's something that I've seen a million times, but it does it successfully within its own rhythm that you can't help but enjoy it no matter what, because it does it so successfully in its own film, in its own right, which is why it's deserving of its 8 from us. And I don't need to justify the number. The numbers are arbitrary, but it's just to give you guys it's just for me to give a visual representation, because apparently I visualize things in numbers of like my emotional connection to this freaking film. And yeah, just like what chat's saying right now, the fact that like it wasn't that he was just holding her, it was like he had the rings grip her. Yeah. Like he was using everything that he could to this time, everything in his literal power to make it happen. We're just about we're going just past the 30-minute mark, so we're gonna have to start wrapping things up here. I do want to say something about the character as a whole. I thought it was interesting that they gave him powers, as in the 10 rings. I like. In my opinion, be able to
fight with,
I know,
alongside Thor. And,
I know, yeah. That's my thing. Is like it's just like I'm telling myself the same thing. I just like I wanted him. I was really expecting him to be kind of like Batman, or to be kind of like, you know, like Hawkeye, in the respect where. But then, I'm also really happy that he has the rings, because that means they're going to showcase him more. That means he is going to be, because like you can only,
he's going to matter,
right? You can only do so much with Black Widow and Hawkeye. Like as cool as they are, it's like they don't, you know, whenever something big comes about, they have to go fight the grunts, or they have to go do something lesser, as unfortunate as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does mean that he is going to matter. And like, I'm not disappointed. It's just me, like my expectations were put in a different place. I'm happy with the resolution of him getting the rings. I am kind of worried. I guess it's not worry, but I do feel like that Doctor Strange, or what's his name, Ming, is going to Wong is going to confiscate the rings or something. I don't know why, but I just feel like something like that might happen. Also, these characters, they seem so chill. I don't.
Yeah.
You know how like every Avenger fought one another almost at one point.
Yeah.
But it's also just kind of see like, oh, who would win, Thor or the Hulk, or what happens if Mjolnir rams into the shield, which, oh my god, don't even let me go on that rant about the shield. But the shield is literally a plot device. It doesn't, they nerf it and buff it. It can, if Captain America comes out unscathed whenever Mjolnir hits him, but you throw a grenade at him and he'll fly across a football field. Like, okay. I'm overall, I'm just excited for where this movie's gonna go, and it seems like it's the small scenes of him holding on to his sister and his father. I even got emotional when his dad was just looking at him. Didn't even say anything, just looked at him.
Oh, like, when he was a baby? Or
no. When Cthulhu was eating his soul.
Oh yeah, good God!
When
like, dude,
yeah,
you could write like people have written essays about Tony Leung's eyes. Like that's all he has to do is just look.
He was just looking at you, and you're like, you just know, you hear everything that he's saying, and it's like Shang-Chi knows everything that he's saying,
and
you're like, damn. Because any other movie, it would have been like, I love you, son. Take care of your sister. You
don't need it.
It's not needed. It's so like that.
I didn't even
like
think about that. Wow.
Props to that.
Like they don't say goodbye or anything like that.
Nothing. That was so powerful to me. I was like, because like that's so something my dad would do. My dad's gone on 2 tours to Afghanistan, and like we didn't say anything to each other. He gave me like I remember as a kid, I was a punk kid. Yeah, just sent him the rings. Yeah, that's all he did. Actions speak louder than words. He was just like, oh my god, I didn't even think about that. He sent him the rings. The thing that he cherished, like, more than his children, almost.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally his legacy.
Shang even says that. Like, all you cared about was those damn rings. Like, he even says that to him in the fight.
Oh my gosh. Like, he gives him his rings. Gosh, dude, that's so emotional. Like, and it really is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
No, dude, like, yeah, the movie's great. Go watch it. I've said all that I have to say, Jeff. I've been in the spotlight for like 30 minutes. Please, just say.
No, I mean, I think the only thing. Do I want to add?
Do it.
Well, I want to mention it because it's something that I didn't think of. It is not my original thought. It is something that I'm taking from somebody else on YouTube. But
getting some deja vu.
This film's and kind of going back to the cinematography and the overall direction of the movie, the film's use of the Z axis is amazing. And what that means is when we think of a movie, we think of height and width of the screen. It's like 4:3, 16:9. So like that's the y-axis going up and down and the x-axis going from left to right. The z-axis is going from front to back. So things moving away from camera, things moving towards camera. And it's weird. Like there were moments during this film, like especially when Wu puts the pendants in the dragon and all the water comes out and shows the map of the forest, you know? I felt like I was in a 3D movie because of like all the water exactly the splashing and everything. And like we're even seeing in like a lot of the shots where like, you know, when Razor Fist like swings and Shang-Chi ducks underneath it and the blade comes like right towards the camera and then swoops back. Like there are so many shots in this movie that make excellent use of the z-axis, which is again incredible considering that this movie was not shot for 3D. Yes, of course it was later converted to 3D, but that's something that studios do just because they want to be able to charge higher ticket prices. Because they can like, oh, it's in 3D, we can make an extra $5 off of you. And
but it makes
like,
it
fuck that.
So much harder. Like it takes another because you have to plan the 3D in the filming.
Yeah, but like again, like that's something that if you haven't seen the movie, which by the way, I know everybody here has, and obviously if you haven't, then we spoiled the whole thing for you. But if you're thinking about seeing it again, like that, and you want to look at it from like that technical kind of point of view, that's something to definitely pay attention to. That's just the last thing that I wanted to add. But yeah, I love this movie way more than I thought that I would.
Same. Chat, they said they saw it in 3D tonight. They paid $3 more. Was it worth the extra $3? Did Jeff bring up a good point in referencing that? Also, I want to say when it was worth the $3. Okay, maybe I'll go. I don't know. I say maybe I'll go see the movie in 3D. I'm not going.
Yeah. I always have fun when I watch movies in 3D, but I never remember the movie in 3D.
Same.
So I'm like, why?
Water was gorgeous. Was it? Well, I guess it was water. Anytime I think of waterfalls and water and stuff like that, I think of like, oh yeah, that part in 3D with the water, that probably would look awesome.
Probably pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of 3D films, go watch in 3D. No, like it's funny that you say that because Ramon in Discord, I think he brought up something or someone said something. Pretty sure it was Ramon. I literally felt the same thing that you said, Jeff, or that the YouTuber that you're referencing said, except I couldn't say it in such technical terms. The best way I could put it was like, and these aren't even my words, so I'm referencing someone as well. It was like watching a Tekken movie, but a good one. It was like watching a fighting game. Like, there were some scenes where I was like, this is a cinematic from Final Fantasy. Like, I couldn't.
Ooh, let me ask you this then, real quick, before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Because another YouTuber pointed this out. Does this movie give you faith that one day there will be a good live-action Dragon Ball Z movie?
Okay, I've heard this. No. Okay, no, that's not my answer. That's me. I'm weird when I think. I stutter a lot and I say words. I say filler words. I've had this thought. Literally, like, after 30 minutes after I watched the movie, we got home and I was thinking this to myself. And I immediately thought of the conversation me and you had, Jeff. And then I was just like, man, screw it. Because I know I'm being very vague. I like to lead up to the thing. The problem is, Jeff, you open my eyes. There are good Dragon Ball Z movies out there. There are good
See where you're going.
freaking superhero movies and video game movies out there. They're just not labeled with the movie and the character.
Yeah.
I think the possibility and the potential is always there. It's just that we're cursed. And again, I'm going to go with the theory that I had before. I just feel like all the good directors or all the people who want to do it they didn't grow up with it, or like it just doesn't interest them as much. Or maybe, like, and I'm not saying the people who did make them didn't have a passion for it and weren't trying their hardest to make it happen. But what I am saying is that, like, it's cursed. And until we get a successful one, we're going to keep getting crappy ones. And it's the same thing with, like, superhero movies. Like, movies were good, but they weren't great or phenomenal. And then Disney showed us, well, I'm not even going to say Disney. I'm going to say Warner Brothers gave us Batman Begins, and then they gave us Batman Dark Knights, and they showed us, like, hey, look, you know, like, we, like, and it's not like, it's like comic books. They go on for issues on issues on issues. So it's like, it's hours of materials. It's not, you know, that argument of like, well, video games are like 50 hours of story. It's like, I don't care. Like, there's 10 Game of Thrones books. Like, you can still, have you read Lord of the Rings? Like, there's so much filler in that book. But
Yeah.
Peter Jackson made it work. But he also took a lot of reference. I saw this on Corridor Digital. He took a lot of reference from the animated Lord of the Rings. So to answer your question, does this give me hope? No, it pisses me off even more, because it's like, we've always had the potential. We just haven't done it successfully.
You're looking at this like, this does not give me faith that there can be a live action Dragon Ball Z movie. This just is what I will take as a live action Dragon Ball Z movie.
Exactly. It pisses me off because it's like, just change everyone's name, change the context of the movie. Oh, boom, Dragon Ball Z. Like,
Yeah.
it should already be a thing. It just pisses me off that it's like, it's not happening yet. It doesn't give me hope. It just, there's a curse. There's a curse. There's a superstition. And I don't know if you've ever seen Malcolm in the Middle and you've seen that episode where Hal is bowling and he's almost on the perfect game. If I have to do rituals every morning, just like that episode of Malcolm in the Middle, I will start doing them to beat this curse. But I do think the possibility for those types of movies are a thing. And what a fantastic. Oh, yeah, no, like I love that you brought that up. So thank you for bringing that up. Is there anything else you would like to see me rage on?
No, I don't want to get you all riled up.
Riled up before bed. Okay. When in literature, when a character comes into contact with water, it usually indicates change. Yeah, that's why it's always raining during the rising action of the plot. or like I would totally watch 4 or 5 hour movie. I think a lot of people would as well. I think because Western society, and this is me just answering last question of thought of chat, and then we're going to wrap up. I think I think because Western culture, specifically America, is always about what's the saying? It's a very popular American saying. If you're early, you're on time, and if you're on time, you're late.
You're late.
We definitely have this mentality of like we have to go 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 go. So I think like movies actually, like if you watch some Akira Kurosawa films, they actually used to be really long. And I think like society is kind of like shortened them on the aspect of like we always need to be somewhere. I mean, look at all the people that watch the Zack Snyder film. I think there's still a thing. There's a showing for that, but I don't think movie theaters will support it. That's the bad part. So maybe streaming services. Maybe streaming services might revolutionize that. But with the breaks and snacks and breaks, yeah, it'll have intermission. The old Kira Kurosawa films had intermissions in them. The Avatar movie. Finish him. That was great. I enjoyed Shang-Chi. Oh my gosh. Shang-Chi. Honestly, there's not a lot of bad things we said about this film. I don't try to look for bad things when we talk. I kind of just like, this is a podcast where me and my buddy Jeff just get together and we talk, and we love having people interact with us. And so I once again, even sometimes when I talk to Jeff, he opens my eyes to a lot of things, and it changes my view. I do have to say Jeff did open my eyes to things, but it made me love the movie even more. So
Yay.
I recommended the film at the beginning of the show. I'll recommend it again. If you are okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna say this. If you are not an MCU fan, if you're not into all that other stuff, I'm gonna repeat what Jeff said. This is still a film that can be enjoyed if you know nothing about the MCU. It's kind of its own thing. They don't even really reference outside the film. They make probably one reference, maybe two references of
there's a reference to the snap.
Yep. And then he says, whenever they're like, do you really think that a mystical place like that could exist? Then Katie's like, well, weirder things have happened. Like,
yeah.
You kind of, that's it. It's very subtle.
Friggin' Asgard.
So like, honestly, I agree with Jeff. I would recommend this film to someone who's not even into the MCU and knows nothing about it. It's a good film. It's so many things. It's a family film. It's a self-discovery film, and it's a kung fu movie. It's a martial arts film. Go watch it, Jeff.
Yeah. I absolutely agree.
Cool.
Full stop.
That's all right.
It.
This has been the Digital Roundtable. I want to thank everyone in chat for giving us your insight and giving us your thing. This is the end of the episode for the podcast. If you are listening to us on YouTube or on the podcast, you can always catch us live at twitch.tv/digitalhero101. If you're listening to us live and you want to catch up on our other conversations, we talk about movie reviews, we talk about the industries, and we talk about things that we like. You can catch us on a podcast service of your choice, whether that be Apple, Spotify, or the interwebs. And you can also catch us on the YouTube channel. I have a playlist of things under the same name, Digital Hero 101. You can probably find us under Digital Roundtable under that as well, or things like that. So, for you podcast viewers, until next time, play nice.